She was sold at the altar in a blood-stained wedding dress. Alina Varelli never imagined her father's funeral would be just the beginning of her nightmare. 3 days after she buried him, armed men dragged her from the cemetery and shoved her into a wedding gown still wet with someone else's blood. Her father owed $50 million to a crime empire, and she was the payment. The man waiting at the altar wasn't just dangerous, he was obsessed, and he'd been watching her for years. This is her story. Stay until the end, hit that like button, and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this tale has traveled. The rain hammered against the limousine windows like fists demanding entry. Alina pressed her forehead against the cold glass, watching the cemetery gates disappear into the gray haze behind them. 3 days. Her father had been in the ground for 3 days, and she could still smell the wet earth under her fingernails, still feel the phantom weight of the single white rose she'd dropped onto his casket. The two men flanking her in the back seat hadn't spoken since they'd grabbed her at the graveside. The one on her left had a scar that ran from his ear to his jaw, a pale line that looked surgical. The one on her right kept his hand resting on something metallic beneath his jacket. Neither had told her where they were taking her, neither had needed to. She'd known this moment was coming. Her father had told her, near the end, when the cancer had eaten through his ability to lie. "I'm sorry, Piccola. I made choices. Bad choices." And now? Now she was in the back of a car that smelled like leather and gun oil, wearing a black dress still damp from kneeling in the mud, and the men beside her radiated the kind of silence that preceded violence. The limousine slowed. Through the rain-streaked window, Alina saw iron gates, a long drive lined with skeletal trees, and at the end, a stone building that might have been a chapel once, before someone stripped away anything resembling grace. It crouched in the storm like a wounded animal, all sharp angles and boarded windows. "Out," Scarface said. His voice sounded like gravel being crushed. Her legs didn't want to cooperate. She forced them to move anyway, stepping out into the rain that immediately plastered her hair to her skull. The cold bit through her dress, through her skin, straight down to her bones. One of the men gripped her upper arm, not rough, but firm enough that she understood refusal wasn't an option. They walked her up the stone steps. The heavy wooden door swung open before they reached it. Inside, the air was different, warmer, but wrong. It carried the smell of old incense mixed with something chemical, oil, maybe, or cleaning solvent. The space had been stripped of anything ornamental. No stained glass, no carved saints, no comfort. Just stone walls, harsh overhead lights, and rows of empty wooden benches. And guards. At least a dozen men in dark suits positioned along the walls like statues. All of them armed. All of them watching. At the far end, where an altar should have been, there was just a table. And standing beside it, a woman in her 60s holding a garment bag. "This way," she said. Her voice was crisp, professional, completely detached. "You need to change." "Change into what?" Alina's voice came out hoarser than she'd intended. The woman unzipped the bag. The dress inside was white. Cream-colored, really, with delicate lace along the bodice and sleeves that looked hand-stitched. Beautiful, in another context. Except for the stains. Dark, rust-colored splotches across the front, splattered up one side like someone had been careless with paint. Not paint. "You can't be serious," Alina whispered. 20 minutes, the woman said, checking her watch. "We're on a schedule." "I'm not wearing that. I'm not Miss Varelli." The woman's eyes were gray and tired and utterly empty of sympathy. "You can put it on yourself, or they will put it on you. Those are your options." Alina looked back at the guards along the walls. None of them had moved. None of them looked away. Her hands shook as she took the dress. The woman led her to a small side room, probably a vestry once. Now it was just 4 walls, a mirror, and a wooden chair. 10 minutes, she said, and closed the door. Alina stood there holding the dress, feeling its weight, feeling the wrongness of it. The fabric was silk. Expensive. The bloodstains were old, set deep into the fibers. Someone had tried to clean them and failed. Or maybe they'd left them on purpose. She wanted to scream. She wanted to tear the thing apart. She wanted to run. Instead, she peeled off her wet funeral dress and pulled the wedding gown over her head. It fit perfectly. That was somehow the worst part. The way it hugged her waist, the way the sleeves ended precisely at her wrists. Someone had taken her measurements. Someone had planned this. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw a ghost. The door opened. The woman returned with a small makeup kit. Sit. No. Sit down, Miss Varelli. I said no, I'm not. He's waiting. The word he landed like a physical blow. Alina sat. The woman worked quickly, efficiently, covering the dark circles under Alina's eyes, adding color to her pale cheeks, painting her lips a shade of red that looked violent against her skin. The whole time, neither of them spoke. When she finished, she stepped back and nodded. Better, let's go. The main space had filled with more people. Men, mostly, in expensive suits that couldn't quite hide the predatory way they moved. They stood in loose groups, smoking, talking in low voices that cut off when Alina emerged. The woman gripped her elbow and steered her toward the front. There was music now. Not traditional, not romantic. Something low and instrumental that hummed through hidden speakers, setting Alina's teeth on edge. And there, standing where a groom would stand, was the man who'd bought her, Raphael Dacour. She'd never seen him in person before, only in newspapers. In grainy surveillance photos her father had shown her years ago when he'd still been pretending he could fix his mistakes. The images hadn't prepared her. He was tall, easily 6'3", with dark hair cut short and features that might have been handsome if they weren't so sharp. Everything about him looked precisely controlled, from his tailored black suit to the way he stood perfectly still while chaos surrounded him. But it was his eyes that stopped her breath. They were fixed on her with an intensity that felt physical. Dark eyes, almost black in the harsh lighting, and they tracked her movement down the aisle like she was the only thing in the room worth seeing. Not hunger. Not cruelty. Fixation. The woman released Alina's arm when they reached the front. Alina stood there, 3 feet from Raphael Dacour, close enough to see the faint scar along his jaw, close enough to smell his cologne, something dark and woody that probably cost more than her father's casket. Miss Varelli, he said. His voice was quieter than she'd expected. Controlled, like everything else about him, but there was something underneath it, something that vibrated wrong. Thank you for coming. The absurdity of it, the politeness wrapped around the violence, made her laugh, sharp and bitter. Did I have a choice? No, he said simply. You didn't. At least he was honest. A man stepped forward from the side, older, balding, carrying a leather folder. We should begin, he said. Who are you? Alina demanded. I officiate transactions, the man said. This is a transaction. This is insane. This is business. Raphael's voice hadn't changed tone, but something in it made her look at him. Your father made agreements. He signed contracts. He borrowed money he couldn't repay. He's dead. Debts don't die, Miss Varelli. They transfer. To me. To you. The officiant cleared his throat. If we could proceed. No. Alina took a step back. No, I'm not doing this. You can't just. People don't do this anymore. You can't buy people. I'm not buying you, Raphael said. His eyes hadn't left her face. I'm settling an account. Same thing. Is it? You tell me. What happens after? What exactly did my father sell me into? Something flickered across Raphael's expression, too fast to read. Nothing you're imagining. You don't know what I'm imagining. I know you're afraid. Of course I'm afraid. You dragged me here and put me in a dead woman's dress. The dress was new, he said. The blood is pig's blood, for effect. The casualness of it, the way he said for effect like this was theater, made her vision blur red. You're sick. I'm practical. You're a monster. Yes, he agreed, I am, but I'm the monster standing between you and worse monsters. So make your choice, Miss Varelli. Stand here and say the words, or walk out that door and see how far you get. She looked past him, at the guards along the walls, at the men smoking and watching like this was entertainment. She looked at the door. Heavy wood, barred from the inside. Even if she could get through it, even if she could somehow make it past the guards, past the gates, past the walls, she had no money, no connections, nowhere to go. Her father had made sure of that. Years of bad choices, bad deals, bad debts. He'd spent everything, mortgaged everything. And when the cancer came, he'd borrowed more, promising collateral he didn't have, promising her. What are the words? She asked quietly. Raphael nodded to the officiant. The man opened his folder and began to read. Not traditional vows. Nothing about love or cherishing. Just legal language, binding language, terms and conditions that made Alina's skin crawl. She barely heard it. The words washed over her like rain, cold and relentless. When it was her turn to speak, she met Raphael's eyes and said, "I agree," with all the warmth of a blade. When it was his turn, he said, "I accept," like he was signing for a package. "Witnessed and sealed," the officiant said, closing his folder. "Congratulations." No one applauded. Raphael reached into his jacket and pulled out a small box. For one horrible moment, Alina thought it was a ring. But when he opened it, she saw a key. "For your room," he said. "You'll want to lock it. From the inside or the outside? Your choice." He handed her the box. Their fingers didn't touch. "Gentlemen," Raphael said, addressing the room without looking away from her, "we're done here." The men began to file out. The guards remained. Alina stood there in her blood-stained dress, holding a key to a room she'd never seen, married to a man who'd bought her like livestock, and felt the full weight of her new reality settle onto her shoulders. "Come with me," Raphael said. It wasn't a request. The estate revealed itself in pieces as they drove. High walls, cameras, gates that opened and closed automatically, sealing them deeper into the compound. The main house was brutalist architecture softened by money, all clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows that somehow managed to look both modern and fortified. The car stopped under a covered entrance. Raphael got out first, then waited for her to follow. Still that careful distance. Still that fixed attention, like she might evaporate if he looked away. Inside, the house was all marble and recessed lighting. A woman in her 40s appeared. Not a maid, Alina realized. Something else. Her bearing was too confident, her gaze too assessing. "This is Teresa," Raphael said. "She runs the household. Anything you need, ask her." "Mrs. Decor?" Teresa said. The title sounded wrong. "I'll show you to your room." "I'll show her," Raphael said. Teresa's expression didn't change, but something passed between them. Some unspoken communication that Alina wasn't privy to. Then the woman nodded and disappeared down a side corridor. Raphael led Alina up a wide staircase, down a hallway lined with abstract art that probably cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. He stopped at the last door on the left and pushed it open. The room was large, larger than her entire apartment had been. King bed with white linens, sitting area with a gray suede couch, windows that overlooked gardens she couldn't quite see in the darkness. Everything expensive, everything tasteful, everything designed to look like a luxury hotel room. Everything impersonal. "Bathrooms through there," Raphael said, pointing. "Closets stocked. If you need different sizes, tell Teresa." Alina walked to the window. Bars. Decorative, expensive-looking bars, but bars nonetheless. "And if I need to leave?" "The grounds are secure." "That's not what I asked." "I know what you asked." She turned to face him. "So what's the answer?" "You're not a prisoner. Then I can leave." "I didn't say that." "So I am a prisoner." Raphael moved further into the room. Not toward her, just shifting position, resting one hand on the back of the couch. "You're my wife. On paper, legally bound. That protects you. The alternative is that you're classified as an asset, which means anyone who wants to hurt me can take you, torture you, kill you, and it's just business. This way, you're untouchable." "Untouchable," she repeated, "in a locked room, in a walled compound, surrounded by armed men." "Yes. Some protection. It's the only kind that works in this world. Your world. Your world now too, Miss Varelli." "Mrs. Decord," she corrected bitterly. "Isn't that what we're calling it?" Something shifted in his expression. "You can call yourself whatever you want. In private, names don't matter." "What matters then?" "Survival." He moved toward the door. Alina's pulse jumped despite herself. But he stopped at the threshold, one hand on the frame. "The key I gave you works from both sides," he said. "Use it however you want. But understand, there are men in this house who've done things that would give you nightmares. The lock is a courtesy. It's not a guarantee. And you?" The question came out before she could stop it. "What have you done?" Raphael looked at her for a long moment. "Everything," he said finally. "I've done everything." Then he left, pulling the door closed behind him. Alina stood there alone, still wearing the blood-stained dress, still holding the key, and finally let herself shake. She didn't sleep that first night. Couldn't. Every sound made her jump. Footsteps in the hallway, the house settling, the wind against the windows. She'd locked the door immediately, then spent 20 minutes testing it, making sure it actually worked, making sure no one could override it from the outside. At some point near dawn, she peeled off the wedding dress and left it in a heap on the floor. She showered in the massive bathroom, scrubbing her skin until it hurt, trying to wash off the smell of the chapel, the feeling of strange hands guiding her down the aisle. When she finally emerged, wrapped in a towel, she found the closet exactly as Raphael had described. Stocked, not just with basics, but with expensive clothes in her exact size. Dresses, pants, shoes, undergarments, everything she might need, all carefully selected by someone who'd studied her measurements, her style, her preferences. The invasion of it made her want to scream. Instead, she pulled on jeans and a sweater, the most casual thing she could find, and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing. A knock at the door made her flinch. "Mrs. Decor?" Teresa's voice. "I have breakfast for you." "I'm not hungry. I'll leave it outside the door." Alina listened to the sound of footsteps retreating. She waited 5 minutes, then unlocked the door and peered out. A tray sat on the floor. Coffee, fruit, pastries. The coffee smelled real, strong. She grabbed the tray and retreated back inside, locking the door again. The coffee was good. She hated that it was good. She spent the day mapping the room, testing the windows, locked, reinforced glass, definitely not breakable. Examining the furniture for anything useful. The closet held only clothes. The bathroom had toiletries, towels, but nothing sharp, nothing that could be weaponized. Even the shower was designed with smooth edges, tempered glass. Someone had thought this through. Someone had anticipated exactly what she'd look for. That afternoon, Teresa knocked again. "Mr. Diacor would like you to join him for dinner. Tell him I'm not hungry. I'll let him know." 2 hours later, another knock. "Mrs. Decor, Mr. Decor insists. And if I refuse?" A pause. "He said to tell you that you can eat in your room or at the table, your choice, but you will eat." Alina opened the door. Teresa stood there with the same professional expression, giving nothing away. "Where?" Alina asked. "Dining room, ground floor, I'll show you." The house looked different in daylight. Still expensive, still fortified, but the windows showed gardens, a pool, trees beyond the walls. Teresa led her through hallways lined with art, past rooms she glimpsed but didn't enter, a library, an office, something that looked like a gym. The dining room had a table that could seat 20. Raphael sat at one end, reading something on a tablet. He looked up when they entered. "Thank you, Teresa," he said. The woman left without a word. Alina stood there, suddenly aware of how exposed she felt in the massive room. Raphael gestured to the chair nearest him, not at the opposite end of the table, but close, within conversation distance. She sat. The chair was expensive, ergonomic, comfortable. She hated it. "You didn't touch your breakfast," Raphael said. "I wasn't hungry." "Lunch?" "Same." "You need to eat." "I'll eat when I want to eat." He set down the tablet. "This isn't a negotiation, Miss Varelli. You'll make yourself sick." "That's my problem." "No," he said quietly. "It's mine. Everything about you is mine now. Your health, your safety, your survival." That was the agreement. "I didn't agree to anything. I was coerced." Semantics. A man in a white coat, an actual chef, Alina realized, appeared from a side door carrying plates. He set them down without speaking and disappeared. The food looked incredible. Some kind of pasta in a light sauce, fresh bread, salad with ingredients she couldn't identify. The smell made her stomach clench with hunger despite herself. "Eat," Raphael said. Not a command, just a statement. Alina picked up her fork. She took a bite. It tasted as good as it looked. She took another bite, then another, and realized she was ravenous. She'd barely eaten since her father's funeral, barely kept anything down before that. Raphael watched her for a moment, then went back to his tablet. They ate in silence. When she'd finished half her plate, he spoke again. "I have rules." She set down her fork. "Of course you do. You can move freely inside the house. The grounds are accessible during daylight. There are cameras everywhere. Guards patrol at night. Don't approach the walls, don't try the gates. Or what? Or you'll embarrass yourself when they stop you. That's it? That's your prison? It's not a prison. It's a protection. You keep saying that. Because it's true. He looked at her directly. There are people who would use you to hurt me. People who would take you apart piece by piece and send me the video. This house, these walls, these rules. They keep you alive. How thoughtful. It's practical. Everything's practical with you, isn't it? The dress, the ceremony, the room, all of it calculated. Yes, he said simply. And me? Am I just another calculation? Something changed in his expression. Subtle, but there. You're the variable I didn't account for. What does that mean? He didn't answer. Instead, he stood. I have work. Teresa will show you around tomorrow if you want. Or you can stay in your room. Your choice. Always my choice, Alina said bitterly. As long as I choose what you want. Raphael paused at the doorway. I want you safe, he said. Everything else is negotiable. Then he was gone. The days blurred together. Alina established a routine because the alternative was madness. She woke early, tested the locked door, showered, dressed. She ate breakfast alone in her room. Mid-morning, she'd venture out, exploring the house bit by bit. The library became her sanctuary. 2 stories of books, most of them in languages she didn't speak, but enough in English to keep her occupied. She'd curl up in a leather chair by the window and read, watching the guards patrol outside, counting their routes, timing their rotations. Raphael kept his distance. She'd see him sometimes. In the hallway, in his office, through an open door, once in the gym at dawn, moving through some kind of martial arts routine that looked lethal and precise. He'd nod at her. She'd ignore him. Teresa ran the house with quiet efficiency. She never asked personal questions, never offered unwanted advice. She simply made sure Alina had everything she needed: clothes, books, food that appeared at regular intervals, whether Alina asked for it or not. The other staff were ghosts. They cleaned when she wasn't in her room, restocked the closet while she slept, left meals outside her door at exact times. She never saw them. It was deliberate, she realized. Raphael didn't want her forming connections, didn't want her finding allies. 2 weeks in, she started testing boundaries. She woke at 3 in the morning and tried her door. Unlocked. She walked the hallways in darkness, mapping the house by moonlight through the windows. She found Raphael's office. Locked. The gym. Open. The kitchen. Massive, professional grade, empty at this hour. She was making coffee when she heard footsteps. Raphael appeared in the doorway wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, looking more human than she'd seen him. His hair was slightly messy. He had a bruise forming along his jaw that hadn't been there at dinner. Couldn't sleep? He asked. Didn't want to. There's a difference? You'd know. You look like you don't sleep much either. He moved to the industrial espresso machine, started making himself something. I sleep enough. Hence the bruise? His hand moved to his jaw automatically, then dropped. Training accident. You train at midnight? I train when I have time. Alina watched him work the machine with practiced efficiency. You do everything yourself? No staff for this? I prefer to do some things myself. Control thing? Survival thing. The espresso machine hissed. Raphael pulled 2 cups from the cupboard. How do you take it? I don't. You were making coffee. For something to do. He poured anyway, handed her a cup. Humor me. She took it. The porcelain was warm against her palms. They stood there in the massive kitchen, drinking coffee at 3 in the morning, and for a moment it felt almost normal. Then Raphael said, You've been testing the security. Her heart jumped. How would you know? I watched the cameras. Of course you do. You're fast, good spatial awareness. You map 3 floors in under an hour. Is that a compliment? It's an observation. Well, observe this. I'm not staying here forever. Yes, he said. You are. You can't keep me. I can. I will. She set down the cup hard enough that coffee sloshed onto the counter. I'm not yours. Legally, you are. Legally is just paper. Paper signed in blood. He said it calmly, like he was discussing the weather. Your father's signature. My money. Witnessed by 20 men who'd kill you for looking at them wrong. That's not just paper, Miss Varelli. That's contract law enforced by violence. That's slavery. That's protection. And you're smart enough to know the difference. Protect me from what exactly? From you? Raphael moved closer. Not threatening, just eliminating distance. Close enough that she could smell the coffee on his breath, see the exact shade of brown in his eyes. From everyone else, he said quietly. From the men who'd use you as leverage. From the families who'd trade you between them like currency. From the buyers who'd pay millions for someone with your face, your education, your bloodline. You think this is bad? You think locked doors and surveillance and rules are the worst thing that could happen to you? His voice had dropped to something dangerous, something real. I've seen what happens to women in this world when they're not protected. I've seen them broken, discarded, erased. You want to hate me? Fine, hate me. But don't confuse me with them. Alina held her ground. And what makes you different? I don't touch you. The words hung in the air between them. You watch me, she said. The cameras, the guards reporting every move. That's touching. That's surveillance. Same thing. No, he said. It's not. He stepped back, put distance between them again. Go back to bed, Miss Varelli. Test the security tomorrow if it makes you feel better. But understand, you won't find a way out, because there isn't one. He left his coffee on the counter and walked out. Alina stood there alone in the massive kitchen, hands shaking, and realized she'd been holding her breath. Altat. 3 weeks in, something changed. The household staff started acknowledging her. Not much. A nod, a quiet, "Good morning, Mrs. Dacour," but enough that she felt less like a ghost. Teresa asked her preferences for meals. The groundskeeper smiled at her through the window. Raphael started joining her for dinner regularly. Not every night, but often enough that it became routine. They'd sit at the absurdly large table, eating food prepared by chefs she never saw, and talk about nothing important. Books, art, the weather. Never the business. Never his work. Never the guards, or the guns, or the cameras. It felt surreal. One evening, she pushed. What exactly do you do? Raphael looked up from his plate. You know what I do. I know what my father said you did. Import, export, distribution. Very vague, very careful. It's better if we keep it vague. Better for who? For you. I'm already neck deep in this. Might as well know what I'm neck deep in. He set down his fork. I move things. Money, goods, information. I broker deals between people who can't deal openly. I solve problems that can't be solved legally. You're a criminal. I'm a facilitator. That's the same thing. In this world, morality is geography. What's illegal here is standard practice there. I operate in the spaces between. And the violence? She pressed. The guards, the guns, the men who look like they've killed people? They have killed people. The casual admission made her stomach turn. And you? Raphael met her eyes. Yes. How many? Does it matter? It matters to me. He leaned back in his chair. Enough that I stopped counting. Few enough that I remember their faces. The honesty of it shocked her. She'd expected deflection, justification, lies. Not this brutal self-awareness. You don't even try to defend it, she said. Would you believe me if I did? No. Then why waste the words? They finished dinner in silence. But something had shifted. Some wall had cracked. Not collapsed, just cracked. Enough to let light through. That night, Alina didn't lock her door. Morning came with shouting. Alina woke to the sound of raised voices, running footsteps, doors slamming. She grabbed a robe and yanked open her door to find Teresa in the hallway, looking genuinely rattled for the first time. What's happening? Stay in your room, Teresa said. Like hell. What's going on? More shouts from downstairs. Male voices, angry, overlapping. Something crashed. Teresa grabbed Alina's arm. Please, go back inside. Lock the door. But Alina was already moving, already running toward the stairs, driven by something she didn't understand. She hit the landing and saw chaos below. Guards everywhere, someone being dragged, blood on the marble floor, and Raphael in the center of it all, perfectly still, perfectly controlled, with murder in his eyes. The person being dragged was young, maybe 17, scrawny, terrified. He was bleeding from his nose, his shirt torn, hands zip-tied behind his back. "Please," the kid was saying. "Please, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." Raphael crouched down to his level. "You stole from my warehouse. I was hungry. I just needed—" "You stole from me. Please." Raphael's hand moved. Alina saw the gun. She didn't think. She ran. "Stop!" Every head turned. Raphael looked up at her, still crouched, still holding the gun, and something flickered across his face too fast to read. "Miss Varelli," he said carefully, "go back upstairs." "Let him go." "This doesn't concern you. You're going to kill a kid. That concerns me. He's a thief. He's 17. He's a liability." Raphael stood, keeping the gun trained down. "He broke into a secured facility, stole product worth $50,000. That's not hunger. That's bold enough to be a message." "Or it's desperation," Alina said. She was at the bottom of the stairs now, close enough to see the kid's face, the fear in his eyes. "Look at him. He's not a message. He's just scared. Scared people do stupid things. So do powerful ones." The room went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Alina was aware of every guard watching, every weapon ready, every outcome that ended with her on the floor instead of the kid. But she held Raphael's stare. "If you kill him," she said quietly, "you prove you're exactly what everyone says you are, a monster who solves everything with violence. If you let him go, you prove you're something else." "What would I be proving?" "That you're human." Raphael looked at her for a long moment, then at the kid, then back at her. "You vouch for him?" "I don't even know him." "Then why?" "Because mercy shouldn't require knowing someone." Something in Raphael's expression shifted. Not softened, nothing about him softened, but changed. He lowered the gun, nodded to the guards. "Get him medical attention, feed him, then escort him to the gates and make sure he understands. He doesn't come back, ever. If I see him again, Miss Varelli's mercy won't mean shit." The guards hauled the kid up. He was crying, saying thank you over and over. They dragged him away. Raphael turned to Alina. "My office. Now." His office was wood and leather and windows overlooking the grounds. Raphael closed the door, locked it, and turned on her. "Don't ever do that again." "Do what? Stop you from murdering a teenager?" "Undermine me in front of my men." "Your men? You want to talk about property, about control? You literally bought me and you're upset I spoke up? You don't understand what you did." "I understand perfectly. I made you look weak." "You made me look merciful," he corrected. "That's worse." "Why?" "Because mercy is how you die in this world." His voice had risen, actual emotion breaking through the control. "Every man in that room saw me hesitate, saw me back down, saw me choose your word over my authority. You think that doesn't have consequences? So what? You kill people to maintain your reputation? I kill people to stay alive. To keep everyone under this roof alive. You, Teresa, the guards, the staff. All of it depends on people being afraid of me. Fear is the only currency that matters." "That's not true." "It's the only truth I've ever known." They stood there, both breathing hard, the air between them electric with something dangerous. "Why did you listen to me?" Alina asked finally. Raphael looked at her like she'd stabbed him. "Because I can't not." "What does that mean?" "It means you're the only person in 10 years who's looked at me and seen something other than a weapon. And I don't know what to do with that." The confession hung there, raw and real. "Raphael, get out," he said quietly. "Before I do something we'll both regret." Alina left, but as she reached the door, she looked back. He was standing at the window, shoulders tight, one hand pressed against the glass like he was trying to keep the world out, or himself in. She went back to her room and didn't lock the door. The next morning, the kid was gone. Alina asked Teresa where they'd taken him. Teresa just shook her head and said, "He's alive. That's more than most get." It wasn't an answer. It was a warning. Raphael didn't appear for breakfast, didn't show for lunch. When evening came and his chair at the dining table remained empty, Alina felt something twist in her chest that she refused to name. She ate alone, pushing food around her plate, listening to the silence of the massive house. Through the windows, she could see guards patrolling, more than usual, their movements sharper, their weapons visible in a way they hadn't been before. Teresa appeared as Alina was finishing. Mr. Dacour requests you don't leave your room tonight. Requests or demands? Does it matter? Alina set down her fork. What's happening? Nothing that concerns you. Everything that happens in this house concerns me now. Or did you forget I'm legally bound to it? Teresa's professional mask slipped for just a moment. Something that might have been sympathy crossed her face. There are men coming tonight, business associates, the kind who don't respect boundaries. Mr. Dacour wants you out of sight. Why? Because some of them heard about yesterday, about the thief, about you. The words landed like ice water. What did they hear? That Raphael Dacour showed mercy because a woman asked him to, that he's going soft, that maybe he's not the man they thought he was. That's ridiculous. That's dangerous. Teresa moved closer, lowering her voice. In this world, perception is reality. If they think he's weak, they'll test him, and the easiest way to test him is through you. Alina's pulse kicked up. What does that mean? It means stay in your room, lock the door, don't come out until morning. And if I don't, then you'll learn exactly what kind of men run this world, and you won't like it. So, Alina went to her room. She locked the door. But she didn't stay there. The house had a security system. She'd noticed the panels, the cameras, the sensors, but it also had blind spots. The library had windows that faced the gardens, angles the cameras couldn't quite cover. If she was careful, if she timed it right, she waited until full dark, changed into black jeans, a dark sweater, soft-soled shoes that wouldn't echo on the marble. She'd spent weeks mapping this house, memorizing routines, counting guard rotations. Now she put it to use. The hallway was empty. She moved quickly, keeping to the shadows, avoiding the cameras she knew were there. Down the back stairs, through the servants' corridor she'd discovered 2 weeks ago. Into the library, through the side door that didn't quite latch properly. The library was dark, except for moonlight through the tall windows. Alina moved to the corner where the surveillance angles couldn't reach and positioned herself behind a bookshelf with a sightline to the front drive. 20 minutes later, the cars arrived. 4 of them. Black SUVs with tinted windows, rolling up the drive like a funeral procession. Men poured out. Not guards. Something else. Expensive suits that couldn't hide the violence underneath. They moved like predators, loose and confident. The kind of men who'd never been afraid of anything in their lives. Raphael met them at the door. Even from this distance, even in the dark, Alina could see the tension in his shoulders, the careful way he held himself. This wasn't like the dinner conversations they'd shared. This was Raphael Dacour in full armor, every inch the warlord. They went inside. Alina waited, counted to 100. Then she moved. The library had a ventilation grate that connected to the central system. If you knew where to stand, you could hear voices from the main floor. She'd discovered it by accident her first week, listening to Teresa on the phone. Now she pressed her ear to it and caught fragments of conversation. Reputation on the line here. Just business, Raphael. Heard you went soft. Prove it. Then Raphael's voice, cold as a blade. I don't prove anything to anyone. A laugh. Multiple voices joining in. Not friendly. Mocking. That's not what we heard. Heard you let some street rat walk because your pretty little wife asked nicely. Silence. The kind that precedes violence. My wife, Raphael said, each word precise, is not your concern. Oh, she's everyone's concern now. You parade her around, marry her public, make her part of the business. She's fair game. Touch her, and I'll put you in the ground. More laughter. See? Soft. The old Raphael would have cut out my tongue for even mentioning her. Now you just threaten. Consider it a courtesy. Next time I won't bother with words. Someone else spoke. A voice Alina didn't recognize, older, rougher. We're not here to fight, Raphael. We're here to remind you of certain obligations, certain expectations. I'm aware of my obligations. Are you? Because from where we're standing, looks like you're forgetting who your real allies are, getting distracted by domesticity. My personal life doesn't affect my business. Your personal life is our business when it makes you vulnerable, when it makes us all vulnerable. The voices shifted, moved away from the grate. Alina strained to hear but caught only murmurs. Then footsteps. Multiple sets heading deeper into the house, toward Raphael's office. She shouldn't follow. She knew she shouldn't. Teresa's warning echoed in her head. Don't come out. Don't let them see you. Don't give them ammunition. But something in Raphael's voice, that careful control wrapped around something jagged, made her move. The corridor outside Raphael's office had an alcove where staff waited during meetings. Alina slipped into it, pressing herself against the wall, barely breathing. Through the partially open door, she could see inside. 6 men plus Raphael. They'd spread out around the room, claiming territory, making themselves comfortable in a space that wasn't theirs. Raphael stood behind his desk, positioned so his back was to the window, giving him sightlines to all of them. The older man, silver hair, expensive watch, scar tissue around his knuckles, leaned against the desk like he owned it. Here's the situation, he said. The families are concerned. You've always been reliable, Raphael. Cold. Efficient. But lately you're making choices that don't align with our interests. Such as? Sparing thieves, showing mercy, getting married like some civilian. My marriage was a business transaction. Was it? Because it doesn't look that way. Looks personal. Looks like you're building something other than empire. Raphael's hands were flat on the desk. Alina could see his fingers, the way they pressed down just slightly, anchoring himself. What I do in my personal time doesn't concern the council. Everything you do concerns us. You hold territory, Raphael. You broker deals that affect all the families. You don't get to compartmentalize your life like some accountant. Then tell me what you want. The silver-haired man smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Proof. Of what? That you're still the man we know. That mercy was a momentary lapse. That the wife is just an asset, not an influence. And how would I provide this proof? There's a situation, South Docks. A crew's been skimming product, undercutting prices, disrespecting territorial agreements. Normally, we'd handle it internally, but given the current concerns, we thought you might want to make a statement. Raphael didn't move. What kind of statement? The permanent kind. All of them. Public enough to send a message. Brutal enough to remind everyone why we don't cross you. The air in the office changed, thickened. You want a massacre, Raphael said flatly. We want the old Raphael, the one who didn't hesitate, the one who understood that in this business, mercy is just weakness with better PR. Alina's heart was hammering so hard she thought they might hear it. She watched Raphael's face, looking for some sign, resistance, disgust, anything human. He gave them nothing. When? He asked. Tonight. We'll provide the location, the logistics. You provide the execution, literally. The silver-haired man pushed off the desk. Do this, and the concerns go away. The families stay aligned. Business continues. And if I refuse? Then we'll have to reevaluate our association, which would be unfortunate for everyone. The threat hung there, unsubtle. Raphael nodded slowly. Give me an hour. I'll gather my team. Good man. The silver-haired man moved toward the door. The others followed. Oh, and Raphael? Bring the wife. Every muscle in Raphael's body went rigid. No. It's not a request. We want her to see what this life really is, what you really are. Call it education. She stays here. She comes with us, or the deal's off. The man smiled that empty smile again. Your choice. They filed out, footsteps echoing down the hallway. Alina pressed herself further into the alcove, holding her breath as they passed. None of them looked her direction. When they were gone, she heard something from inside the office. A sharp crack. She peered around the corner and saw Raphael standing over his desk, breathing hard, a split in the wood where his fist had connected. He stood there for a long moment, head bowed, shoulders heaving. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. Teresa, get Alina, bring her to my office. Now. Alina didn't wait. She ran. She made it back to her room before Teresa arrived. Locked the door, changed clothes, messed up her hair like she'd been sleeping. When the knock came, she opened it looking confused. Mr. Decor needs you, Teresa said. Her face was pale. It's almost midnight. I know, please. Just come. Alina followed her down the hallway, keeping her breathing steady, her expression neutral. When they reached Raphael's office, Teresa knocked once and left without a word. Raphael was standing at the window, still wearing the same clothes, hands in his pockets. He didn't turn when she entered. "You were supposed to stay in your room," he said quietly. Her stomach dropped. "I did." "Don't lie to me, Alina. There's a camera in the library. Blind spot by the window. I know about it. I put it there. But the side door? That has a sensor." "Fuck." "How much did you hear?" he asked. She considered lying again, decided against it. "Enough." "Then you know what they want. For you to prove you're still a monster." "Yes, I heard." He turned to face her. He looked exhausted, not physically, something deeper, soul-tired. "They want you there. As witness." "I know. If I refuse, they'll pull support. That means war. That means every family turns on us. That means this house, the guards, all of it, gone. That means you become a target for everyone. So you're going to do it. I don't have a choice. Everyone has a choice." "Not in this world." He moved toward her, stopping just out of reach. "You asked me once how many people I've killed. I told you I stopped counting. That was a lie. I know exactly how many. 37. Some deserved it. Some were business. Some were just in the way. Tonight would make it 42. The precision of it, the way he said the numbers like reading a ledger, made her sick. "And if you don't?" she asked. "Then I'm weak. And weak doesn't survive. Not me, not you, not anyone under this roof. So I'm supposed to watch you murder 5 people to save your reputation? You're supposed to watch me murder 5 people to save your life. I didn't ask for that. You didn't have to. The moment your father put you in that equation, you became my responsibility. And I don't fail my responsibilities." Alina felt something crack inside her chest. "You actually think this is protection? You actually believe murdering people in front of me is somehow keeping me safe? It's the only thing that works. It's the only thing you know." "Yes." His voice rose, actual emotion bleeding through. "It's the only thing I know. Violence is the only language anyone in this world speaks fluently. You want me to be something else? Fine. Tell me what. Tell me how to be a man who doesn't kill in a business built on killing. Tell me how to show strength without violence, how to command respect without fear. Because I have spent 15 years in this life, and I have never seen it done." They stared at each other, both breathing hard. "Maybe you're not looking in the right places," Alina said finally. "Maybe there are no right places. Maybe this is it. Maybe we're all just choosing which version of wrong we can live with." He turned away back to the window. "Get dressed. Something dark, nothing expensive. We leave in 20 minutes. "Raphael." 20 minutes, Alina. That's an order." She wanted to scream, wanted to refuse, to lock herself in her room, to force his hand. But the exhaustion in his voice, the defeat underneath the authority, stopped her. She went to change. The drive took 40 minutes. 2 SUVs, 6 guards, plus Raphael and Alina. She sat beside him in the back, watching the city blur past, neither of them speaking. His jaw was tight, his hands fisted on his thighs. She'd never seen him this tense. They pulled up to a warehouse district near the waterfront, the kind of area where zoning laws died and nobody asked questions. The lead SUV parked first, guards spilling out, securing the perimeter. Then theirs. Raphael turned to her before opening the door. "Stay behind me. Don't speak. Don't react. Whatever you see, whatever you hear, nothing. Understand?" "Why are you doing this?" Her voice came out smaller than she intended. "If you hate it, if it goes against every instinct, why?" "Because the alternative is worse." "You don't know that." "Yes," he said. "I do." He got out. Alina followed. The warehouse was massive, all corrugated metal and broken windows. The silver-haired man from earlier was waiting outside with his own team. He smiled when he saw Alina. "Mrs. Decord, so glad you could join us." Raphael positioned himself between them. "Where are they?" "Inside. Tied up, waiting. We'll let you do the honors. Make sure it's memorable." They walked toward the entrance. Alina's heart was trying to climb out of her throat. The doors were already open, spilling yellow light into the darkness. Inside was worse. 5 people knelt in a line, hands zip-tied behind their backs, hoods over their heads. blood on the concrete around them. Not much, just enough to show they'd been roughed up. Guards stood at intervals, weapons ready. This was an execution setup. Clean, professional, horrible. Raphael stopped 10 feet away. One of the guards handed him something wrapped in cloth. He unwrapped it slowly, revealing a gun. Matte black, suppressor already attached. "Make it quick," the silver-haired man said. "We're on a schedule." Raphael checked the weapon with practiced efficiency, chambered around. Alina watched his hands, steady, precise, showing nothing. He walked toward the first person, raised the gun. "Wait," Alina said. Every head turned. Raphael froze. "Alina," he said quietly. "Don't. Let me see their faces." "No." "You're going to make me watch this? Let me at least see who you're killing." The silver-haired man laughed. "She's got spine, Raphael. I'll give you that." He nodded to a guard. "Show her." The guard pulled off the first hood. A woman, maybe 30, with dark hair and terrified eyes, bleeding from a split lip. When she saw Alina, she started crying. "Please," the woman whispered. "Please, I have kids." "Shut up," the guard said, kicking her. The hood came off the second person. A man, older, balding. Then another woman, younger. Then two more men, both barely out of their teens. None of them looked like hardened criminals. They looked like people. Scared, desperate people who'd made bad choices and were about to pay the ultimate price for it. Alina looked at Raphael. His face was carved from stone. Nothing. No emotion, no reaction. The gun was still raised, still steady. "Raphael," she said, "don't do this." "Turn around," he told her. "Close your eyes." "I won't." "That's an order. I'm not your soldier." The silver-haired man was watching all of this with interest. "Problem, Raphael?" "No problem." "Because it sounds like your wife is giving you orders. That's not a good look." Raphael's jaw clenched. The gun didn't waver. Alina stepped forward into his line of sight, between him and the woman. "If you're going to do this, you're going to look at me while you do it. You're going to see my face when you pull that trigger. You're going to remember that I saw who you really are. Move." "No." "Alina, move, or I swear to God." "You'll what? Shoot me?" "Go ahead, prove them right. Prove that Mercy was just a mistake. That I mean nothing. That you're exactly what they say you are." Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, maybe. Or rage. Hard to tell. "She's testing you," the silver-haired man said. "The wife. She's making you choose. Very clever. Very stupid. Kill her, or kill them. Your choice, Raphael. But someone dies tonight, or our arrangement is over." Raphael lowered the gun slowly, turned to face the man. "You said you wanted proof I'm not weak, that I'm still the man you need." "That's right." "Then here's your proof." He raised the gun and shot the silver-haired man in the head. Chaos erupted. The man's body hit the ground and his guards went for their weapons, but Raphael's team was faster. Gunfire exploded in the enclosed space, deafening, muzzle flashes lighting up the warehouse like strobe lights. Alina dropped to the ground, instinct overriding thought. Someone grabbed her, Raphael, hauling her behind a concrete pillar, shielding her with his body as bullets sparked off metal around them. "Stay down!" he shouted over the noise. She couldn't have done anything else. Her ears were ringing, her heart trying to explode, every nerve screaming. Raphael leaned around the pillar and fired 3 times, precise shots that dropped 2 men. His team was advancing, professional, coordinated. The other guards didn't stand a chance. 15 seconds. That's how long it took. 15 seconds of absolute violence and then silence except for ringing ears and someone moaning. Raphael pulled Alina to her feet, checked her over with quick, efficient hands. "Are you hurt?" She couldn't speak, just shook her head. "Get her to the car," he told one of his guards. "Now." "What about them?" The guard gestured to the 5 people still kneeling, still tied, now screaming behind their hoods. Raphael looked at them, then at Alina. "Cut them loose, give them money, enough to disappear. Make sure they understand they saw nothing, they know nothing, they don't exist." The guard nodded and moved to comply. Raphael grabbed Alina's arm and pulled her toward the exit. Outside, the night air hit her like cold water. She sucked it in, trying to stop shaking, trying to process what just happened. "Get in the car," Raphael said. "You killed him. You just—" Get in the fucking car, Alina. She got in. Raphael slid in beside her. The driver peeled out before the door even closed, tires screaming, racing away from the warehouse. They drove in silence for 5 minutes. Then Raphael pulled out his phone and made a call. It's done. Dominic Salazar is dead. Yes, I'm aware of the implications. No, it wasn't the plan. Plans changed. Because he forced my hand. Listen to me very carefully. He brought my wife to an execution and tried to make me choose between my authority and her life. That's not business. That's personal. And I don't negotiate personal. I don't care about the council's opinion. They want war. I'll give them war. They want peace? Then they respect my lines. My line is her. Anyone crosses it dies. End of discussion. He hung up, stared at his phone for a moment, then looked at Alina. You should have stayed in the car, he said quietly. You should have told them no. I did. They didn't listen. So you killed him. I protected you. By starting a war? If that's what it takes, yes. Alina stared at him. At this man who'd just murdered someone in front of her, who'd chosen her over alliances that probably kept him alive, who was looking at her now like she was both his salvation and his damnation. Why? She whispered. Why me? Why not just let them have what they wanted? Why risk everything? Raphael reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he touched her face, his hand shaking slightly. Because I've spent 15 years building an empire on fear and violence and blood, and none of it has ever made me feel as alive as the 5 seconds you stood between me and those people and demanded I be better. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. You make me want to be someone I don't know how to be. And that's terrifying. And I'd burn the whole world down before I let anyone take that away from me. Alina couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The adrenaline, the fear, the weight of everything that had just happened, it crashed over her all at once. She kissed him. She didn't plan it, didn't decide. Just moved, closing the distance, pressing her mouth to his with all the terror and relief and desperate need coursing through her veins. Raphael froze for half a heartbeat. Then he kissed her back. Not gentle, not careful. Like a drowning man finding air. His hand fisted in her hair, the other arm banding around her waist, pulling her closer. She climbed into his lap in the moving car, not caring about the driver, not caring about anything except the feeling of being alive, being wanted, being chosen. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Raphael pressed his forehead against hers. This changes everything, he said. I know. There's no going back from this. I know. You're in now, completely. No more pretending you're separate from this world. No more pretending you're just a transaction. Alina pulled back enough to look at him. His eyes were wild, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. Then stop pretending you don't feel this too. I've felt it since the moment I saw you 3 years ago at your father's office. You walked in wearing a blue dress, and you looked at me like I was a problem to solve. I've been ruined ever since. 3 years. I watched you, studied you, told myself it was reconnaissance, that I was planning ahead. But the truth? I was obsessed. And when your father came to me desperate, when he offered you as collateral, I took it, not because of the debt, because I couldn't stand the thought of you ending up with someone else. The confession hung between them, raw and honest and dangerous. You bought me because you wanted me, Alina said slowly. I bought you because I'm selfish, because I'm a monster, because I saw something beautiful and I took it like I take everything. And now? Now I'm trying very hard not to be that person, which is why you need to tell me to stop. Tell me this is a mistake. Tell me you hate me. Alina looked at him, at the man who'd killed for her, who'd chosen her, who was looking at her like she held his entire world in her hands. I can't, she whispered. Why not? Because I think I'm falling for you, and that's the most terrifying thing I've ever admitted. Raphael made a sound low in his throat and kissed her again. Slower this time, deeper, like he was memorizing the taste of her. When the car pulled up to the estate gates, neither of them wanted to let go. Inside, the house was quiet. The guards had already returned through different routes. Teresa was waiting in the foyer, took one look at them, disheveled, hands linked. Something fundamental shifted between them, and nodded. I'll make sure you're not disturbed, she said quietly. Raphael led Alina upstairs. To his room, not hers. It was larger, darker, all masculine lines and minimal furniture. He closed the door and locked it. Stood there looking at her. Last chance, he said. Well, walk away now and we can pretend this didn't happen. I don't want to pretend. Alina, I spent 3 weeks in this house being afraid of you, of what you represent, what you're capable of. But tonight I saw something else. I saw a man who chose mercy when it would have been easier to choose violence, who risked everything to protect me. And I'm tired of fighting what I feel. What do you feel? She crossed the space between them, put her hands on his chest, felt his heart hammering beneath her palms. Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Even if it's insane, even if it's dangerous, even if everyone would tell me to run. Raphael covered her hands with his. I can't promise you normal. I can't promise you safe. Everything I touch turns to violence eventually. Then I'll just have to be stronger than the violence. You already are. He kissed her again, and this time there was no hesitation, no doubt. Just need and want, and the desperate knowledge that they'd crossed a line neither of them could uncross. They fell into his bed still half-dressed, urgent and clumsy and real. Raphael's hands shook as he touched her, like she was breakable, like she was precious. Alina had never felt more powerful. Afterward they lay tangled together in the dark, skin against skin, heartbeats slowing to sync. Raphael traced patterns on her shoulder, his touch almost reverent. This is going to make everything harder, he said quietly. The families, the alliances, when they find out you're not just a transaction, that you actually mean something to me, they'll use it. They'll come after you. Let them try. I'm serious. So am I. She propped herself up on one elbow, looking down at him. I survived my father's death, survived being sold, survived tonight. I'm not fragile. I know. That's what scares me. Why? Because I can protect you from external threats, but I can't protect you from me, from what being with me will turn you into. Maybe I don't need protecting from that. Maybe I need to decide for myself who I want to be. Raphael pulled her down, kissed her forehead. You're going to destroy me, or save you. Same thing, maybe. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, two broken people who'd found something whole in the wreckage. Morning came too fast. Alina woke to sunlight and an empty bed. She sat up, pulling the sheet around herself, looking for Raphael. The bathroom door was open, empty. His clothes from last night were gone. She found a note on the nightstand, his handwriting all sharp angles. Had to handle fallout from last night. Stay inside today, please. She should have been annoyed by the order. Instead, she felt something softer. He'd said please. She showered in his bathroom, found one of his shirts to wear, and padded downstairs. Teresa was in the kitchen, making coffee. He left early, Teresa said without looking up. Emergency council meeting. Damage control from the Salazar situation. How bad is it? Bad. Dominic Salazar wasn't just another player. He was old money, old alliances. Raphael killing him sends a message that the traditional power structure doesn't matter anymore. Half the families see that as opportunity. The other half see it as declaration of war. Alina poured herself coffee. And Raphael? Raphael sees it as necessary. He's preparing for every outcome. Even war? Especially war. They stood there in the kitchen, drinking coffee, the weight of last night settling between them. You care about him, Teresa said. Not a question. Is that obvious? To anyone who knows what to look for. The question is, are you prepared for what that means? I don't know. What does it mean? Teresa turned to face her. For the first time, the professional mask fell away completely. It means you become a target. It means everything Raphael's enemies can't do to him directly, they'll do to you. It means you'll watch him make impossible choices and you'll have to live with the consequences. It means you'll become part of this world in ways you can't imagine yet. You sound like you're speaking from experience. Something pained crossed Teresa's face. I was married once, to a man in this life. He was good as anyone in this business can be, but his enemies killed him anyway, slowly, made me watch, used me to break him. She set down her cup. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to prepare you. Because once you step fully into this world, there's no stepping back out. What if I've already stepped in? Then you'd better learn to fight, because they will come for you, and Raphael can't be everywhere. As if summoned by the conversation, the front gate alert chimed. Teresa checked the security panel, frowned. We're not expecting anyone. Alina moved to the window. A single car at the gate, expensive sedan, no visible weapons. The driver got out, a woman in her 50s, gray suit, carrying a briefcase. Who is she? Alina asked. Teresa's frown deepened. I don't know, but she's alone, which is either very stupid or very dangerous. The intercom buzzed. Teresa answered. State your business. My name is Veronica Chen. The woman's voice was calm, professional. I'm an attorney representing the Salazar family. I have a message for Mrs. Decord. Alina and Teresa exchanged glances. Mrs. Decord doesn't take meetings, Teresa said. She'll want to take this one. Tell her it's about her father. Alina's blood went cold. Let her in. Alina, let her in. Teresa hesitated, then pressed the button. The gate opened. The woman drove up, parked, walked to the door like she'd been invited for tea. Teresa let her in, positioning guards at every exit. The woman seemed unbothered by the show of force. She set her briefcase on the foyer table and opened it, pulling out a manila folder. Mrs. Decord, she said, extending her hand. Alina didn't take it. You have 2 minutes. I'll need less. The woman opened the folder, pulled out a photograph. Do you recognize this man? Alina looked at the photo. Her breath caught. Her father. But not from recently. This was years ago, maybe a decade. He was standing outside what looked like a warehouse, shaking hands with someone whose face she recognized from last night, Dominic Salazar. What is this? Alina asked, voice tight. Your father and Dominic Salazar were business partners. For 15 years, they ran operations together. Import, export, all of it. Your father was the legitimate front. Dominic was the muscle. They made millions. That's not possible. My father wasn't... Your father was neck-deep in this world long before he owed Raphael Decord a dime. The woman pulled out more documents, bank statements, transfer records, correspondence, all of it proving your father's involvement. Alina's hand shook as she looked through the papers. Dates, numbers, signatures that looked like her father's handwriting. Why are you showing me this? Because the $50 million debt your father supposedly owed Raphael? It was a setup. Dominic and your father staged it. They needed a way to get someone inside Raphael's organization, someone he wouldn't suspect, someone he'd trust. The room tilted. Me, you. The woman's expression softened slightly. Your father sold you to Raphael knowing you'd be the perfect spy, knowing Raphael had been watching you, knowing he'd take the deal. You were supposed to get close, gather information, report back. Then when the time was right, you'd help bring Raphael down from the inside. No. Alina shook her head. No, my father wouldn't. He was dying. He was desperate. He was a gambler and a criminal who used his daughter as a final play. I'm sorry. Truly. But you need to know the truth before you get in any deeper. The woman closed the folder, pushed it across the table toward Alina. Dominic's family wants peace. Raphael killed their patriarch, but they understand why. They know Dominic overstepped. They're willing to let it go if Raphael agrees to certain terms. What terms? A meeting. Neutral territory. Raphael and whoever he trusts from his side. The Salazar family representatives, no weapons, no violence, just talk. And if he refuses? Then war. And wars in this world don't end until everyone's dead. The woman picked up her briefcase. Think about it. Show him the folder. The meeting is scheduled for tomorrow night. Location will be sent through secure channels. She moved toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, Mrs. Decord, I don't think you knew about your father's plan. I think you're genuinely caught in the middle. But be careful. In this world, innocence is just another weapon people use against you. She left. Alina stood there, holding the folder, feeling like the ground had opened beneath her feet. Teresa touched her arm. Alina, I need to see Raphael. He's in meetings all day. He won't be back until now. I need to see him now. Teresa pulled out her phone, made a call, spoke in rapid Italian. When she hung up, she nodded. He's coming, 20 minutes. Alina sat down on the stairs, the folder in her lap, and waited. Her mind was spinning, trying to reconcile the father she'd known, weak, desperate, dying, with the man in these documents, a criminal, a manipulator, someone who'd used his own daughter as collateral in a game she didn't even know she was playing. Had it all been a lie? The cancer, the debt, the desperation? Or had he really been dying and decided to go out with one last con? Either way, she'd been the pawn, the asset, the thing he'd sacrificed, just like she'd accused Raphael of treating her. Except Raphael had never lied about what he was, had never pretended to be anything other than a monster. Her father, the man she'd buried, the man she'd mourned. He'd worn the mask of a victim while planning betrayal. Footsteps. Fast. Urgent. Raphael burst through the door, still in a suit from the meeting, looking like he'd run the whole way. His eyes found her immediately. What happened? Teresa said it was urgent. Alina held up the folder. Raphael took it, flipped it open, scanned the contents. With each page, his expression grew darker. Where did you get this? A lawyer, representing the Salazar family. She came here about an hour ago. And you let her in? She said it was about my father. I needed to know. Raphael was still reading, jaw clenched, fingers gripping the papers hard enough to crease them. When he finished, he looked at her. How much of this did you know? The question landed like a physical blow. What? Your father's involvement, the setup. How much did you know? Nothing. I knew nothing. Raphael, I believed he was just desperate, that he'd made mistakes. Did you? She stood up, anger flooding through the shock. Are you seriously asking me if I was in on this? If I'm some kind of plant? I'm asking because I need to know. You need to... She couldn't finish, the betrayal of it. The fact that he could even question her after last night, after everything. Fuck you. Alina, no, fuck you. I just found out my father used me as bait in some elaborate con game, that everything I thought I knew about him was a lie. And your first instinct is to interrogate me? My first instinct is to protect what's mine, and if that means asking hard questions, I'm not yours. I'm not anyone's. I'm a person who's been manipulated by everyone in my life, apparently, including you. I never manipulated you. You bought me. You forced me into marriage. You surrounded me with guards and cameras and rules. How is that not manipulation? Because I was honest about what I was doing. I never lied, never pretended, never hid behind what? Behind dying in debt? At least my father had an excuse. What's yours? Raphael's controls snapped. He slammed the folder down on the table hard enough to make Teresa flinch. My excuse is that I spent 3 years watching you from a distance, knowing I could never have you, knowing you were too good for this world. And when the opportunity came, yeah, I took it. I bought you. I married you. I made you mine in every legal way possible. Because I'm selfish and possessive and completely fucked up when it comes to you. He moved closer, voice dropping. But I never lied. I never pretended to be something I'm not. I showed you exactly who I am, monster, killer, criminal, and I gave you the choice to walk away. You didn't. You stayed. You challenged me, changed me, made me want to be better. So forgive me if I need to know whether the woman I just started a war for is who she says she is. Alina's vision blurred with tears. I don't know who I am anymore. I thought I was someone's daughter. Turns out I was someone's weapon. I thought I was your prisoner. Turns out I might be your... She couldn't say it, couldn't make herself that vulnerable. I don't know what I am to you. Raphael's expression cracked. He reached for her, pulled her against his chest, one hand in her hair, the other wrapped around her waist. You're everything, he said roughly. You're the only real thing in my life, and that terrifies me. Because if I'm wrong about you, if this is all part of some deeper game, it'll destroy me, completely. Alina pressed her face against his shoulder and let herself cry. For her father, for the lies, for the impossible situation she'd found herself in. Raphael held her through it, solid and steady, anchoring her. When she could finally speak, she pulled back enough to look at him. I didn't know about any of it. I swear. I believe you. Do you? Really? Yes, because if you were playing me, you're the best actress I've ever seen, and I've seen the best. He wiped tears from her face with his thumb. The meeting, tomorrow night. You're coming with me. Raphael, non-negotiable. If the Salazars want peace, they can make their case with you present. If they want war, better to know now. And if it's a trap, then we spring it together. Alina looked down at the folder, at the evidence of her father's betrayal. He used me, sold me, planned for me to destroy you. Yeah. And you still want me here? Raphael tilted her chin up, making her meet his eyes. Your father's sins aren't yours. His plans aren't your responsibility. You're not him, Alina. You're nothing like him. How do you know? Because he saw you as a tool. I see you as a person. He gambled with your life. I'd die before I let anyone hurt you. He lied to you for years. I'm telling you the truth right now. I love you. Completely, dangerously, in ways that probably violate several ethical standards. The confession hung there, raw and unvarnished. That's the first time you've said it, Alina whispered. I've been saying it since I put that ring on your finger, just not with words. She kissed him, hard and desperate and clinging. Raphael kissed her back like she was oxygen. When they broke apart, she said, Tomorrow night, the meeting. I'm coming, not because you ordered it, because I choose it. Good. And Raphael, She swallowed hard. I think I love you too, even though it's insane, even though we're probably both going to hell for it. Already there, he said. Might as well enjoy the company. They stood there in the foyer holding each other, while Teresa quietly collected the folder and disappeared, giving them privacy for their shared ruin. Outside, storm clouds gathered. Tomorrow's meeting would change everything. But right now, in this moment, they had each other. And in a world built on violence and lies that felt like the only truth worth holding on to, even if it killed them both. The meeting was set for midnight at a decommissioned shipping terminal on the edge of the harbor. Neutral ground, according to the Salazar family. Far enough from Raphael's territory that he couldn't claim home advantage. Close enough to the city that running would be difficult if things went wrong. Raphael spent the day preparing like he was going to war. Alina watched him move through the house, making calls, positioning people, running scenarios. He'd assigned 4 guards to her specifically, her own security detail, he called it. She called it a cage with legs. You don't trust me to just sit in the car? She asked when he explained the plan for the 3rd time. I don't trust anyone not to grab you the second my back is turned. So I'm bait. You're leverage. There's a difference. Not from where I'm standing. Raphael stopped pacing and looked at her. They were in his office, late afternoon sun slanting through the windows, turning everything gold. He looked exhausted. If this goes wrong, it won't. If it does, he continued, I need you to promise me something. What? Run. Don't try to help. Don't try to negotiate. Don't do anything heroic. Just run. Teresa has escape protocols, money, documents, contacts. She'll get you out of the country. Alina crossed her arms. And leave you to die? That's your plan? My plan is to keep you alive. Our plan should be to both stay alive. Alina, no. I'm not making that promise. We go in together, we come out together. That's the deal. Raphael moved to her, framed her face with his hands. You're the most stubborn person I've ever met. You bought a woman and expected her to be compliant? Poor research on your part. He kissed her, soft and lingering, like he was memorizing the taste. When he pulled back, his eyes were dark. If anything happens to you because of me, because of this meeting, then we'll handle it, together. Stop acting like I'm some fragile thing you need to protect. You're the only thing I need to protect. Then protect yourself too, because if you die trying to save me, I'll find a way to bring you back just so I can kill you myself. That earned her a ghost of a smile. Noted. Basham. They left at 11. 3 vehicles this time. Raphael and Alina in the middle SUV, guards front and back. The city slid past, dark and watchful. Alina's hands were steady on her lap, but her pulse was hammering. She'd changed into dark jeans, boots, a black jacket that Teresa had provided. Practical clothes. Running clothes, if it came to that. Raphael sat beside her, one hand resting on her knee, the other checking his phone. He'd been getting updates all day. Intelligence on the Salazar family, background on their new leadership, analysis of their likely strategy. They're bringing Victoria Salazar, he said without looking up. Dominic's daughter. 32, Stanford MBA, spent 5 years in legitimate business before her father pulled her back into the family. She's smart, dangerous, and she blames me for making her an orphan. Is she wrong? No. But understanding her position doesn't mean I trust it. The terminal came into view. Chain link fencing, skeletal cranes, shipping containers stacked like building blocks. The SUV slowed at the entrance. A man in a suit stepped out of the shadows, checked the vehicle, waved them through. They parked in a clearing between containers. The other two SUVs positioned themselves at angles, blocking escape routes, creating a perimeter. Raphael's phone buzzed. "They're here," he said. Two vehicles approached from the opposite direction. Expensive sedans, not SUVs. A statement. "We're not preparing for war, we're here to talk." They parked 20 feet away. Victoria Salazar emerged first. She was nothing like Alina had expected. Petite, maybe 5'4", with dark hair pulled back severe, wearing a gray suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. But it was her eyes that made Alina's breath catch. Cold, calculating, absolutely devoid of fear. She had 3 people with her. An older man who looked like a lawyer, a woman in her 50s who moved like security, and someone Alina didn't recognize, a younger man, maybe late 20s, with the kind of face that belonged in movies. Raphael opened his door, looked at Alina. "Stay close." They got out together. Raphael's guards fanned out, not aggressive, but ready. Victoria's people mirrored them. Everyone armed, everyone tense, everyone waiting for someone to make the first wrong move. "Mr. Diacor," Victoria said. Her voice was clipped, precise, East Coast educated. "Thank you for coming." "Ms. Salazar, my condolences for your father. Are they genuine?" "No, but they're polite." Victoria's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Fair enough." Her eyes shifted to Alina. "Mrs. Decord, I've heard interesting things about you." "All lies, I'm sure." "On the contrary, I heard you convinced Raphael to show mercy. That's remarkable. My father spent 30 years in this business and never managed that trick." "Your father tried to make me watch an execution. Maybe his approach was flawed." "Maybe." Victoria gestured to the space between the vehicles. "Shall we? I'd prefer to have this conversation without firearms pointed at each other's heads." They moved to neutral ground. Raphael kept Alina slightly behind him, protective without being obvious. Victoria's people maintained distance, giving them space. "I'll be direct," Victoria said. "My father overstepped. He brought personal feelings into business, tried to force your hand in ways that violated protocol. For that, I apologize." "Apologies don't bring back the dead," Raphael said. "No, but they can prevent more death. I'm not interested in avenging my father. I'm interested in maintaining the peace and prosperity his death threatens to destroy." Meaning the families are fracturing. Some want war, some want new leadership, some want to carve up territory while everyone's distracted. If we don't present a united front, everything collapses. Raphael's expression didn't change. "And you want me to help you maintain control?" "I want us to maintain control together. You have the military strength. I have the political connections. We combine our resources, we keep the peace, we both profit." "That's a pretty pitch. What's the catch?" Victoria looked at Alina. "The catch is her." Alina felt Raphael's entire body tense beside her. "Explain," he said, voice dropping to something dangerous. "Your wife is the daughter of Antonio Virelli, my father's business partner for 15 years. A man who helped build half the infrastructure we all depend on. A man who, when he died, left behind significant assets that legally should pass to his heir." "What assets?" "Trade routes, distribution networks, shell companies worth approximately $200 million, assets that are currently in limbo because Antonio died before properly transferring them." Raphael's hand found Alina's, squeezed once. A warning, "Stay quiet." "Those assets revert to the families," Raphael said. "That's standard protocol." They would, except Antonio had a will, a very specific will that names his daughter as sole beneficiary of everything he built, including partnerships with my family. Alina's heart stopped. "What?" Victoria pulled a document from her jacket, unfolded it, held it out. "Signed 6 months before he died. Notarized, witnessed, legally binding. Everything he owned goes to you, Mrs. Decord." Alina took the document with shaking hands. It looked official. Legal letterhead, signatures, dates, her father's handwriting on certain sections, her name repeated throughout. "This isn't possible," she whispered. "He had nothing. He was drowning in debt." "He was drowning in debt to Raphael," Victoria corrected. "Not to everyone else, not to my family. With us, he was profitable. Very profitable. He just hid it well." Raphael took the document from Alina, scanned it quickly. His jaw clenched. "This is forgery." "It's authenticated. I have the original if you'd like to verify." "Why show us this now?" "Because it changes everything." Victoria's eyes were sharp, predatory. "Mrs. Diacor isn't just your wife. She's a major player in this world, whether she knows it or not. She owns infrastructure, territory, partnerships, which means she has value beyond being Raphael Diacor's possession." "I'm not his possession," Alina said, finding her voice. "Aren't you? He bought you, married you, keeps you locked in his fortress. Seems like possession to me." "Victoria," the lawyer beside her said quietly, "perhaps we should—" "No, she needs to hear this." Victoria looked directly at Alina. "You have options, Mrs. Diacor. You can stay with Raphael, let him control your assets, remain his pretty caged bird, or you can claim what's yours. Take your seat at the table. Become a power in your own right." "By doing what exactly?" Alina asked. "By divorcing him, dissolving the marriage that gives him legal control over you and your assets. Then partnering with my family instead. We'll protect you, support you, help you build something real, not a prison, an empire." The words landed like bombs. Alina felt the ground shifting under her feet. Raphael's voice was ice. "You came here to offer peace, and you're trying to steal my wife." "I'm offering your wife freedom. There's a difference." "She's not interested. Let her speak for herself." All eyes turned to Alina. She stood there holding a document that said her father, the man she'd thought was weak, desperate, dying, had actually been running a criminal empire worth hundreds of millions, that she was heir to something she'd never known existed. "I need time," she said finally, "to process this, to verify." "Of course," Victoria said smoothly. "Take all the time you need. But understand, the families won't wait forever. They'll want to know who controls Antonio's assets. If you don't claim them, someone else will. And it won't be pretty." Raphael stepped forward, putting himself between Victoria and Alina. "This meeting is over." "Is it? Because I have one more thing to show you." Victoria nodded to the young man who'd come with her. He pulled out a tablet, tapped the screen, turned it around. Video footage. Security camera angle. Grainy but clear enough. It showed a warehouse, the same warehouse from last night before the shooting. Timestamp in the corner. 6 hours before the meeting. The footage showed Dominic Salazar entering the building, talking to someone off camera, then that someone stepping into view. Raphael. Alina's blood went cold. "This is from yesterday afternoon," Victoria said. 6 hours before you claim my father forced your hand at the execution. 6 hours before the shooting. You met with him, privately. No guards. No witnesses." "That's taken out of context," Raphael said. But Alina could hear something in his voice. Something wrong. "Is it?" "Because the audio's even better." Victoria tapped the screen again. "Can't keep doing this." Dominic's voice agitated. "Then don't. Walk away." Raphael's voice, calm. "You know I can't. The families would never—" "The families do what they're told if you're convincing enough." "And if I'm not?" A pause. Then Raphael. "Then I'll handle it." The video cut off. Alina stared at the screen, then at Raphael. "What is this?" "It's edited, manipulated." "The timestamp matches the metadata," Victoria said. "I've had 3 independent experts verify it. This is real. You met with my father hours before you killed him. You were planning something. We were discussing the council's concerns, nothing more." "Bullshit." Victoria's composure cracked slightly. "You set him up, made him think you were on his side, then used the execution as an excuse to eliminate him. Also, you could consolidate power and blame it on defending your wife." "That's not what happened." "Then what did happen, Raphael? Because from where I'm standing, you manipulated everyone, including her." Victoria pointed at Alina. "You made her think she was saving those people. Made her think you chose mercy. But you'd already decided to kill my father. She was just cover, a convenient excuse to eliminate a rival and look noble doing it. Alina couldn't breathe. She looked at Raphael, at the man she'd fallen for, the man she'd trusted, the man who'd told her he loved her. Tell me she's lying, Alina said quietly. Raphael's silence was deafening. Raphael, tell me she's lying. It's complicated. It's really not. Did you plan to kill Dominic before we got to that warehouse? Alina, yes or no? His jaw clenched. Yes. The world tilted. Alina took a step back, then another. You used me. I protected you. You made me think I changed you. You made me think showing mercy mattered. The whole time you'd already decided. She couldn't finish. The betrayal was choking her. I couldn't tell you, Raphael said, moving toward her. If you'd known, you wouldn't have been able to sell it. Everyone had to believe it was spontaneous. Sell it? Jesus Christ, you're talking about me like I'm part of your con. You were never part of anything. You were… what? Collateral damage? A useful prop? What was I, Raphael? You were the reason I could justify it. His voice rose, actual emotion breaking through. Dominic was going to die regardless. The families wanted him gone. I wanted him gone. The only question was timing. When he brought you to that warehouse, when he tried to use you against me, I saw an opportunity. Take him out and make it look like I was defending you. 2 problems solved. I'm not a problem to solve. I'm a person. I know that. Do you? Because it sounds like you used my compassion, my desperate need to believe you were something better than a monster, to cover up a premeditated murder. Victoria watched all of this with calculating eyes. Mrs. Dacord, my car is right there. You want to leave? I'll take you. Right now. No strings. Raphael's hand moved to his weapon. Every guard on both sides tensed. Don't, Raphael said quietly. Don't even think about it. You going to shoot me in front of witnesses? Victoria asked. In front of your wife? That'll really prove you're not the monster she thinks you are. I'll do whatever it takes to keep her. Even lock her up? Make her a prisoner for real this time? If I have to. Alina looked at him, really looked. Saw the desperation there, the fear, but also the cold calculation. The same calculation that had led him to manipulate her from the start. You bought me, she said slowly. Not because of my father's debt. Because you wanted me. Then you kept me close by making me think I was softening you, changing you, when really I was just another asset you were managing. That's not true, isn't it? Every choice you've given me has been designed to keep me exactly where you want me. The room with the key that locks from both sides makes me feel like I have control while keeping me contained. The mercy with the thief makes me think I have influence while you were planning murder all along. Even last night, her voice broke. Even last night, making love, telling me you love me. Was that real? Or was that just making sure I was too attached to leave when this all came out? Raphael's expression cracked. Last night was real. Everything between us is real. How would I know? How would I ever know what's real with you? Because I'm telling you, I love you completely, destructively, in ways that make me a worse person and a better man simultaneously. Love doesn't manipulate. Love doesn't use. Love does whatever it takes to survive. He was yelling now, control completely gone. You think I don't know I'm fucked up? You think I don't know I'm doing this all wrong? I've never loved anyone before. I don't have a blueprint. I just know that I would burn this entire world to ash before I let you go. That's not love, Alina whispered. That's ownership. The words hit him like a physical blow. He actually stepped back. Victoria's voice cut through the silence. Mrs. Dacord, the offer stands. My car. Freedom. A chance to be something other than his possession. Alina looked at the car, then at Raphael, then at the document in her hands that said she was worth hundreds of millions, that her father had built an empire she'd never known about, that she had power she'd never claimed. If I go with you, she said to Victoria, what's to stop Raphael from just taking me back? Nothing, unless you make it impossible for him to do so. How? Victoria pulled out another document. Divorce papers, already drawn up. You sign them. They're filed immediately. The marriage is dissolved. He has no legal claim to you or your assets. You become untouchable. He'd still come for me. Maybe, But it would be an act of war against my family, and even Raphael isn't stupid enough to fight everyone at once. Alina looked at Raphael. Is that true? He said nothing, which was answer enough. She took the divorce papers from Victoria, read through them quickly. Standard language, legal termination of the marriage, division of assets, none, since this had all been a transaction anyway. You signed those, Raphael said quietly, and you're declaring war on me. No, I'm declaring independence from you. Same thing. To you, maybe. She looked at him, this man who'd bought her, manipulated her, claimed to love her while using her as a prop. Did you ever actually want me to choose you? Or did you just want me to have no other options? I wanted you safe. That's not an answer. Raphael's hands clenched at his sides. You walk away now. I can't protect you. Maybe I don't need your protection. Maybe I need my own power. Alina, did my father actually owe you $50 million? Or was that a lie too? The question hung there. Raphael's silence was answer enough. Jesus, Alina breathed. It was all fake. The debt, the transaction, the whole thing. You just wanted me and you created a scenario where I had no choice but to come to you. I paid your father $50 million. The debt was real. For what? For you? No hesitation, brutal honesty. I paid him $50 million to let me marry you. He accepted. That made it a business transaction. That makes it human trafficking. I prefer to think of it as aggressive courting. The absurdity of it, the clinical way he described buying a human being, made something inside Alina snap. She laughed, high and sharp and broken. You're insane. You're actually insane. I'm in love with you. Those aren't mutually exclusive. She looked down at the divorce papers in her hand, then at Victoria. If I sign these, what happens? You come with me. We get you somewhere safe. We start the process of transferring your father's assets to your name. Then we figure out what you want to build. And Raphael? Becomes a problem we manage, together. Alina turned to Raphael one more time. Last chance. Tell me the truth. All of it. Why you really wanted me. What your actual plan was. No manipulation, no spin, just honesty. Raphael looked at her with something raw in his eyes. I saw you 3 years ago and became obsessed. I watched you, studied you, told myself it was just reconnaissance. When your father came to me desperate for money, I saw an opportunity. I paid him to let me marry you, fabricated the debt to make it look legitimate, then designed every aspect of your captivity to make you dependent on me while feeling like you had agency. The mercy with the thief, the shooting at the warehouse, every moment of vulnerability I showed you, calculated to make you feel like you were changing me when really I was just learning how to keep you. The clinical confession was somehow worse than a lie. But, he continued, voice rougher, somewhere in all that calculation, it stopped being an act. Somewhere between you challenging me and kissing me and making me want to be someone I'm not, I actually fell. For real. Completely. And now I don't know how to separate the manipulation from the truth, because they're so tangled up, I can't find the line anymore. Alina stared at him. That's the most honest and most horrifying thing anyone's ever said to me. I know. And you still think I'd stay? I think you love me despite knowing better. I think you feel the same thing I do, this impossible pull that doesn't make sense but won't go away. I think you're terrified and furious and heartbroken, but you're not indifferent. And indifference is the only thing I couldn't survive. He was right. God help her. He was right. Even now, knowing everything, she felt it. That pull, that connection, that devastating need. But she also felt something else. Anger, betrayal. And underneath it all, a spark of something new. Power. She looked down at the documents in her hands. Her father's will. The divorce papers. 2 pieces of paper that could change everything. Victoria, she said slowly, if I sign these divorce papers and claim my father's assets, what kind of power are we talking about? Enough to make you one of the major players in this world. Enough that people like Raphael would have to negotiate with you, not own you. And your family would support that? We'd prefer to partner with you rather than fight you, but yes, we'd support it. Alina's mind was racing. All her life she'd been powerless. Her father's daughter, then Raphael's wife, always someone's appendage, never her own person. But if what Victoria was saying was true, If her father had actually built something substantial, she could take it, she could claim it, she could become something other than a victim. But it would mean walking away from Raphael, the man who'd bought her, used her, manipulated her, but who'd also shown her glimpses of something real, something broken and desperate and achingly human. The man she'd fallen for, despite every rational thought screaming at her to run. She looked at him, really looked, saw the fear in his eyes, the desperation, the love that was so twisted up with possession she couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. "If I sign these papers," she said quietly, "is there any version of us that survives?" Raphael's voice was rough. "I don't know. That's not an answer. It's the only honest one I have." Alina took a pen from Victoria, held it over the divorce papers. "Don't," Raphael said. Not a command, a plea. "Give me a reason not to." "Because I love you." "You love owning me." "I love you. They're separate things." "Are they?" "I'm trying to make them separate. I'm trying to be better. But I don't know how to do this without control. Without knowing you're safe, you're mine, you're—" He stopped, swallowed hard. "I'm broken, Alina, I know that. But you're the only person who's ever made me want to fix it. Wanting isn't the same as doing. I know, but it's a start." She looked at the papers, at the pen, at the signature line that would end this marriage and start something new. Then she looked at Raphael and saw something that made her pause. Tears. Actual tears in his eyes. Not falling, but there, this man who'd killed without hesitation, who'd built an empire on violence, who'd manipulated her from the start, was crying. "Please," he whispered, "don't." Alina's hand shook. Victoria leaned in. "Mrs. Decor, whatever you're feeling for him, Stockholm Syndrome, trauma bonding, misplaced compassion, it's not real. You've known him for weeks. He's kept you prisoner, controlled every aspect of your life. That's not love, that's captivity with better furniture. You don't know what I feel. I know what he is. I've dealt with men like him my whole life. They don't change. They just get better at hiding what they are." Alina looked from Victoria to Raphael and back again. Two choices. Two futures. Stay with Raphael, the man who'd bought her, the man who'd lied, but also the man who'd shown her something raw and real and desperately human. The man who'd killed for her, chosen her, made her feel seen in ways no one ever had. Or walk away, claim her power, build something new, become someone in her own right instead of someone's possession. Both options terrified her. Both options felt like losing something vital. The pen was still in her hand, the papers still unsigned. "I need time," she said finally. "How much time?" Victoria asked. "I don't know, more than this. More than a midnight meeting in a shipping yard with guns pointed at each other. The families won't wait. Then they'll have to learn patience." Alina set down the pen, kept the papers. "I'll make my decision, but not here. Not now. Not like this." Raphael's relief was visible. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. I haven't decided anything yet." "But you didn't sign." "I also didn't tear them up. Don't confuse hesitation with loyalty." Victoria's expression hardened. "If you go back with him, he'll never let you leave again. You understand that, right? This is your one chance." "Maybe. Or maybe I need to understand what I'm choosing before I choose it. Either way, it's my choice. Not yours, not his, mine." She turned to Raphael. "I'm going back to the house. Alone. I need space to think." "Alina." "Alone, Raphael. That's non-negotiable. You want any chance of me staying? Give me room to breathe." His jaw clenched. She could see him fighting every instinct. Finally, he nodded. "Okay." "Really?" "Really. I'll have the guards take you back. I'll stay here, finish this meeting, handle the fallout. You'll have the house to yourself until I return." It was such a small concession, a few hours alone. But from Raphael, it felt monumental. "Thank you," she said quietly. She walked back to the SUV, clutching the documents like lifelines. The guards opened the door for her. She climbed in, closed it, and for the first time since this nightmare began, she was alone with her thoughts. As the SUV pulled away, she looked back through the rear window. Raphael stood there watching her go, surrounded by armed men, lit by harsh security lights, looking more alone than she'd ever seen him. She turned away before the image could soften her resolve. The drive back was 40 minutes of silence. The guards didn't speak. The radio stayed off. Alina sat in the back seat, staring at the documents in her lap, trying to process everything. Her father had been a criminal, a successful one. He'd built an empire worth hundreds of millions and hidden it from her entire life. Raphael had bought her, not because of debt, but because he was obsessed. He'd manipulated every aspect of their relationship from the start. And she, despite knowing all of this, despite the betrayal and lies, still felt something for him. Something powerful and destructive and absolutely terrifying. The SUV pulled through the estate gates. Alina looked up at the house, this gilded prison she'd lived in for weeks, mapping exits, counting cameras, planning escape. Now, suddenly, it was hers to command, at least for a few hours. She went inside. Teresa was waiting. "Mrs. Dacord, can I get you anything?" "Information," Alina said. "About my father, about his business with the Salazar family. Everything you know." Teresa's expression shifted. "Mr. Dacord said you might ask." And he said to tell you the truth, all of it." She gestured toward the library. "This way." They went to the library. Teresa pulled a file from a locked cabinet behind the desk, set it in front of Alina. "Your father and Dominic Salazar built the infrastructure most of the families use today. Distribution networks, money laundering systems, political connections. They were partners for 15 years, legitimate on paper, criminal underneath. Why didn't anyone tell me? Your father wanted you kept separate, clean. He built trust funds in your name, offshore accounts, property holdings, all structured so that if he died, you'd inherit without knowing where it came from. $200 million worth? Closer to 300, actually. Victoria underestimated. Or lied, hard to tell which. Alina opened the file. Financial statements, property deeds, corporate documents, all of it in her name or transferred to her upon her father's death. She'd been a millionaire and hadn't known it. Why didn't Raphael tell me? Teresa hesitated. The truth, Teresa, he said all of it. Because if you knew you had your own money, your own power, you might leave. Keeping you dependent was part of keeping you close. The calculation of it, the cold, precise manipulation. Does he love me? Alina asked quietly. Really? Teresa looked at her with something like pity. I've worked for Raphael for 8 years. I've seen him with dozens of women. Business associates, allies, even a few attempts at relationships. None of them mattered. None of them changed him. Then he brought you here, and suddenly he's questioning orders, showing mercy, breaking protocol. So yes, I think he loves you, but I also think he doesn't know the difference between love and obsession, and that's dangerous. For who, me or him? Both. Alina sat down heavily. She'd come into this house 3 weeks ago as a prisoner. Now she was sitting in the library of her captor, learning she was worth hundreds of millions, holding divorce papers in one hand and her father's legacy in the other. What would you do? She asked Teresa. If you were me? I'd run, far and fast. This world destroys everyone it touches. You're still here. I don't have anywhere else to go. You do. Alina looked at the documents spread across the desk, then at the divorce papers, then at the windows overlooking the grounds where guards patrolled, where cameras watched, where Raphael had built a fortress to keep her safe or keep her contained, or both. She picked up her phone, dialed. Victoria answered on the second ring. Mrs. Dacord, have you made a decision? I need you to send me everything, every document, every piece of evidence about my father's holdings. I want to know exactly what I'm looking at before I decide anything. Of course, I'll have it couriered over within the hour. And Victoria, if I do this, if I sign the papers and claim my assets, what's the first move? We dissolve the marriage, then we call a council meeting. You take your seat as Antonio Varelli's heir. You claim your territory, your partnerships, your voice, and you make it clear that you're not someone's wife. You're a power in your own right. And Raphael becomes a colleague or an enemy. His choice. Alina hung up, sat in the silence of the library, surrounded by books and secrets and impossible decisions. The door opened. She looked up, expecting Teresa. It was Raphael. He was covered in blood. Not his own, she realized as he stepped into the light. Someone else's. Splattered across his shirt, his hands, his face. He looked like he'd walked through a war zone. "What happened?" she asked, standing. Victoria's peace offer was a lie. His voice was flat, emotionless. The meeting was a trap. "Soon as you left, her people opened fire. I lost 3 men getting out." "Oh, God." She never wanted peace. She wanted you isolated, vulnerable, and convinced I'm the monster. Then she'd take you, take your assets, and eliminate me. Classic play. Alina's mind raced. The documents she showed me? Probably real. Your father did build an empire, but Victoria's not offering partnership. She's offering a cage that looks like freedom. How do I know you're telling the truth? Raphael pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, tossed it to her. Video footage. The meeting, after she'd left. Victoria's people positioning themselves, weapons ready. Then the shooting, chaos, bodies. Raphael's guards trying to protect him while he fought his way out. The timestamp matched. The violence was real. "She tried to kill you," Alina whispered. "She tried to remove the obstacle between her and $300 million. I'm just in the way." Alina sat down again, mind spinning. Everything Victoria had said, every offer, every promise, manipulation, just like Raphael's. Just different packaging. "So everyone's lying," she said numbly. "Everyone's using me. I'm just an asset to be traded between whoever's willing to kill the most people." Raphael moved closer, slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. "Not everyone. You manipulated me from the start." "Yes." "You bought me like property." "Yes." "You've lied to me about fundamental things." "Yes." "Then how are you different from her?" Raphael knelt in front of her, blood-stained and exhausted and brutally honest. "Because I'm not trying to convince you I'm something I'm not. I'm a monster, Alina. I've always been a monster. I manipulated you, used you, lied to you. All true. But I also meant every word I said about loving you. I also killed for you. I also chose you over alliances that kept me alive. And I'm also giving you the one thing Victoria never would, a real choice." He pulled the divorce papers from the desk where she'd set them, held them out. "You want out? Sign them. I'll let you walk away. I'll even protect you while you claim your assets, build your empire, become whatever you want to be. I won't fight you. I won't stalk you. I won't make you choose between freedom and survival." "Why would you do that?" "Because I love you enough to let you go. Even if it destroys me. Even if every instinct I have is screaming at me to lock you in a room and never let you see daylight again. You're not mine to keep if you don't choose to stay." Alina looked at the papers in his hands, at the blood on his shirt, at the exhaustion and pain and desperate sincerity in his eyes. "And if I stay, then we figure out how to build something real. No more manipulation, no more lies. Just 2 broken people trying to survive in a world that wants to destroy them both." That's not exactly a fairy tale ending. I don't deal in fairy tales. I deal in survival and truth. And the fact that I would rather die than lose you, but I'd rather let you go than keep you prisoner. Alina took the papers from him, looked at them. The signature line stared back. One signature. That's all it would take. End this marriage, claim her freedom, walk away from the man who'd bought her. Or stay. Choose this. Choose him. Choose the monster who loved her and the chaos that came with it. Her hand trembled as she picked up the pen. Raphael watched, silent, not breathing. She pressed pen to paper, and then the windows exploded. Gunfire erupted from everywhere at once. The library windows shattered, spraying glass. Bullets tore through books, furniture, walls. Raphael threw himself over Alina, shielding her as the world dissolved into violence. She felt him jerk, once, twice, bullets finding flesh. Felt his blood hot on her skin. "Stay down," he shouted over the noise. More gunfire, return fire from Raphael's guards, explosions somewhere outside. The house was under siege. Raphael pulled her behind the desk, grabbed a weapon from somewhere, started firing back. Professional, precise, even bleeding. His shirt was torn, blood spreading. "How bad?" Alina shouted. "Not fatal. Yet." The gunfire intensified. Someone was screaming. The lights went out, plunging them into darkness lit only by muzzle flashes. Raphael's phone buzzed. He checked it one-handed while firing with the other. "Fuck," he breathed. What? Victoria didn't come alone. She brought the council, all of them. This isn't an assassination. It's a hostile takeover. Of what? Everything. Me, you, your assets. They're not here to negotiate. They're here to end this. Another explosion rocked the house. Closer this time. They were breaching the perimeter. Raphael grabbed Alina's face, making her look at him. Listen to me very carefully. There's a safe room, sub-basement, behind the wine cellar. Teresa knows the code. You get there, you lock yourself in, you don't come out until you hear my voice. Understand? I'm not leaving you. You don't have a choice. If they get you, this is over. Everything, your assets, your freedom, your life. They'll use you to control me, then kill us both. Then we run, together. I can't run. I'm hit too many times, but you can. You have to. Raphael, he kissed her, hard and desperate and final. I love you. Whatever happens, I need you to know that was real. Then he shoved her toward the door. Teresa, he shouted. Teresa appeared, weapon in hand, face grim. South stairwell is still clear. Get her to the safe room. Don't stop for anything. Wait. Alina reached for him. Raphael caught her hand, squeezed once. If I don't make it, don't. Don't you dare. If I don't make it, take everything. Your father's empire, my assets, all of it. Build something better than we did. Promise me. Tears were streaming down her face. Promise me you'll make it. I'll try. Another explosion. The ceiling cracked. Teresa grabbed Alina's arm. We have to go. Now. I love you, Alina said desperately. Raphael smiled, blood on his teeth. I know. Then Teresa was dragging her away, down hallways filling with smoke, past guards fighting and dying, deeper into the house. Alina looked back once and saw Raphael still firing, still fighting, covered in blood and surrounded by enemies. Then they turned a corner, and he was gone. Shit. The safe room was exactly what Raphael had described. Behind the wine cellar, hidden door, reinforced steel. Teresa punched in the code and shoved Alina inside. Lock it from the inside. Don't open it for anyone but Raphael or me. We'll use the code phrase, the debt is paid. Anything else, don't respond. Teresa, I need to go back. Help him. Just stay alive, okay? He's fought too hard to lose you now. Then she was gone. The door sealed with a hydraulic hiss. Alina was alone in the darkness. She fumbled for a light switch, found it. Fluorescent bulbs flickered to life, revealing a space maybe 10 by 12. Shelves with emergency supplies, medical kit, communications equipment, and monitors, security feeds from throughout the house. Alina moved to the screens, turning them on. The house was a war zone. Guards fighting in every corridor, bodies, blood, smoke. She found Raphael on one of the feeds. Third-floor hallway, back against a wall, firing with one hand while the other hung useless at his side. There were at least 8 hostiles advancing on his position. He was going to die. She was watching the man she loved die in real time, and there was nothing she could do. Her hand found the divorce papers, somehow still clutched in her grip. Crumpled now, stained with Raphael's blood. One signature. That's all it had taken to end this marriage. She'd been about to sign them when the windows exploded. She'd been about to choose freedom. Now, watching Raphael fight for his life, watching him bleed and struggle and refuse to go down, she realized something. She didn't want freedom from him. She wanted freedom with him. She wanted to build something together, not apart. Wanted to take her father's empire and Raphael's resources and create something that wasn't built on violence and manipulation and lies. But first, Raphael had to survive. And he wasn't going to. Not alone. Alina looked at the monitors, studied the layout. The hostiles were focused on Raphael, pushing toward his position. They weren't watching the stairwells, weren't covering their rear. She opened the medical kit, found bandages, adrenaline shots, painkillers, found a weapon, small caliber, maybe 8 rounds. Not much, but enough. She moved to the door, her hand on the keypad. Teresa had told her to stay. Raphael had ordered her to hide. But she'd spent her whole life following orders, being protected, being kept safe in cages of varying luxury. Maybe it was time to make her own choice. She punched in the code. The door hissed open. Alina stepped out into the war zone, weapon in hand, moving toward the stairs, toward Raphael, toward a future that was hers to claim or die trying. Behind her, on one of the monitors, the divorce papers lay abandoned on the floor of the safe room. Unsigned. She was done running. It was time to fight. The stairwell was dark, filled with smoke that burned Alina's throat with each breath. She moved up the stairs, weapon held in both hands the way she'd seen Raphael's guards do it, finger off the trigger until she had a target. Her heart was slamming against her ribs so hard she thought it might break through. Above her, gunfire echoed. Closer now. She could hear voices shouting orders, footsteps running, the wet sound of bodies hitting floors. She reached the third-floor landing and pressed herself against the wall, peering around the corner. The hallway was carnage. 4 bodies, Raphael's guards, she realized with a sick lurch, sprawled across the floor. Blood pooled under them, still spreading. The attackers had pushed through here, leaving the dead behind. Alina stepped over the bodies, trying not to look at their faces, failing. She recognized one, Marco, who'd driven her to the meeting tonight. His eyes were still open, staring at nothing. She forced herself to keep moving. The gunfire was coming from the east wing, Raphael's office. They'd cornered him there, cutting off his escape routes, hemming him in. Classic tactical approach. Contain the target, eliminate support, then finish the job. She came around another corner and found herself facing 2 men in tactical gear. They had their backs to her, focused on something ahead. Before she could think, before fear could paralyze her, muscle memory from weeks of watching Raphael's guards took over. She raised the weapon, aimed for center mass like she'd seen them do, fired. The recoil shocked her, harder than she'd expected, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. Her first shot went wide, punching into the wall, but the second caught one of the men in the shoulder, spinning him around. His partner turned, weapon coming up. Alina fired again. 3 shots, fast and panicked. 1 missed. 1 hit his vest. The third caught him in the throat. He went down choking, clutching at the wound, blood pumping between his fingers. The first man was struggling to raise his weapon with his good arm. Alina shot him twice more. He dropped. She stood there, shaking, staring at what she'd done. 2 men. She'd killed 2 men. The reality of it tried to crash over her, the weight, the horror, the irreversible nature of those triggers' pulls. But she couldn't afford to process it. Not yet. Not while Raphael was dying somewhere ahead. She stepped over the bodies and kept moving. Raphael's office door was ahead, partially open, bullet holes punched through the wood. She could hear movement inside, low voices, someone giving orders. Bleeding out. Just wait. He's got maybe 5 minutes. Victoria wants confirmation. Put one in his head. He's still armed. You go first. Fuck you. You go. Alina's breath caught. They were waiting for Raphael to die, playing it safe rather than risk another assault. She looked at her weapon. 3 rounds left, maybe 4. Not enough to take on multiple hostiles in a direct fight. But she didn't need to win. She just needed to give Raphael an opening. She pulled the fire alarm. The sound was immediate and ear-splitting, shrieking through the hallway, disorienting everyone. The voices inside the office shouted in confusion. She used the chaos to move, slipping through the door low and fast. The office was destroyed. Furniture overturned, windows blown out, bullet holes everywhere. 3 men in tactical gear were positioned around the room, weapons trained on Raphael's last position, behind his overturned desk. Raphael was there, slumped against the desk, weapon loose in his grip, blood soaking through his shirt in too many places. His eyes were closed. He looked dead. The alarm kept screaming. One of the tacticals shouted over the noise, "Kill the alarm!" Another moved towards the wall panel. Alina shot him in the back. The other 2 spun toward her, weapons coming up. She dove behind a filing cabinet as bullets tore into it, shredding metal, punching through. She felt heat as one passed close enough to singe her hair. Return fire came from Raphael's position. His eyes were open. He was moving, injured and slow, but moving, firing with brutal precision. One tactical went down with a shot to the head. The third tried to return fire at both targets, caught between 2 threats. Raphael shot him twice. He dropped. Silence except for the fire alarm still wailing. Alina stood on shaking legs. Raphael was looking at her, expression somewhere between shock and fury, and something else she couldn't name. "What the fuck are you doing here?" he shouted over the alarm. "Saving your life, apparently." "I told you to stay in the safe room." "Yeah, well, I'm bad at following orders." She moved to him, dropping to her knees, assessing the damage. He'd been shot at least 4 times, shoulder, side, thigh, and somewhere in his torso that was bleeding the worst. His face was gray, lips pale, shock setting in. "You're dying," she said. "Not yet." "Close enough. We need to get you medical. We need to get out of this house. Victoria's people are still in the building. More coming. This was the advance team." "How many more?" "Too many." Alina looked around frantically. The office had a balcony, dangerous but possible. The hallways were compromised. The main stairs would be swarming with hostiles. "Can you walk?" Raphael tried to stand, made it halfway, collapsed back against the desk. "Not quickly. Then I'll help you." "Alina, shut up. Save your strength." She pulled his arm over her shoulders, braced herself, lifted. He was heavy, dead weight, his blood soaking into her clothes, but adrenaline gave her strength she didn't know she had. They made it 3 steps before the door burst open again. 5 more tacticals poured in, weapons up. Raphael raised his gun with his free hand, but his grip was weak, his aim wavering. "Don't," the lead tactical said. "You're done, Decord. Drop it." "Fuck you. Drop it or we kill her first and make you watch." Raphael's hand shook. He looked at Alina. Something passed between them. Understanding, resignation, love wrapped in desperation. He dropped the gun. "Smart choice." The tactical gestured. 2 of his men moved forward, grabbed Raphael, ripped him away from Alina. He tried to fight, but he was too weak, too injured. They slammed him to the ground face first. He grunted in pain. "Stop!" Alina shouted. "He needs medical attention. He needs a body bag." The tactical turned to her. "You're Alina Varelli?" "D'accord, Alina D'accord." "Not for long. Victoria's got divorce papers all drawn up. You're going to sign them, nice and legal. Then you're going to transfer all your daddy's assets to the Salazar family. Easy, simple, everyone wins." "And if I refuse?" The tactical pressed his boot into Raphael's back, right over one of the bullet wounds. Raphael's body arched, a scream tearing from his throat. "Then we hurt him until you agree. We can do this for hours, days if necessary. Eventually you'll sign. Question is how much you let him suffer first." Alina looked at Raphael on the floor, bleeding and broken and still trying to reach for a weapon he didn't have. Looked at the tacticals surrounding them, professional killers with no hesitation, no mercy. She'd killed 2 men getting here. 3 rounds left in her weapon, dropped somewhere behind the filing cabinet when she dove for cover. No way to fight, no way to run, no leverage, except one. "I'll sign," she said. Raphael's eyes snapped to her. "Alina, no. I'll sign everything. Transfer all the assets, dissolve the marriage, whatever Victoria wants, on one condition." The tactical smiled. "You're not in a position to negotiate." "I'm in the only position that matters. Those assets are mine. My signature, my choice. You can torture Raphael all you want, but legally, you need me compliant. Signing under duress makes the documents invalid. So here's my condition. You get Raphael medical attention, real medical attention. Keep him alive. Then I sign." "We could just force your hand, literally. Try it. See how steady your signature looks with broken fingers. See how well that holds up in court when the families contest it. Because they will. You think Victoria's the only one who wants $300 million in assets?" The tactical's smile faded. He was considering it, weighing options. "Let me talk to Victoria," he said finally. He pulled out a phone, stepped away. Low conversation, too quiet to hear over the still shrieking fire alarm. One of the other tacticals finally shot out the alarm panel. Blessed silence fell. Raphael was breathing hard, each breath wet and labored. "Don't do this," he whispered. "I'm saving your life." "You're signing it away. Everything your father built, everything that gives you power." "I don't care about power. I care about you not dying on this floor." "Alina, we can rebuild, get new assets. I can't rebuild you." Something in his expression broke. "You're going to regret this." "Probably, but I'll regret it with you alive." The tactical came back. "Victoria agrees. Medical team is en route. They stabilize him. You sign. Deal?" "Deal. But I see the doctors first. Verify they're real. Then I sign in front of witnesses, legal and binding." "You drive a hard bargain for someone with no cards." I have the only card that matters. My signature. Use it or lose it. The tactical nodded, spoke into his radio. Bring the medics. We've got a deal. Judge Sam. The medical team arrived 10 minutes later. Real doctors, Alina verified by checking credentials, asking questions, watching them work. They stabilized Raphael with professional efficiency, stopped the bleeding, started IV fluids, pumped him full of pain medication and antibiotics. He needs a hospital, the lead doctor said. These are field repairs. He's got internal bleeding, possible organ damage. Will he live through the next hour? The tactical asked. Probably. After that, no guarantees. Good enough. They loaded Raphael onto a stretcher. He was barely conscious, eyes unfocused, mumbling something Alina couldn't understand. She gripped his hand as they wheeled him out. Where are you taking him? Secure location. You'll see him after you sign. That wasn't the deal. Deals changed. You sign first, then you get your reunion. The tactical smiled. Insurance, Mrs. Decor. Can't have you changing your mind once he's safe. Alina wanted to scream, to fight, to shoot every one of these bastards. But Raphael's blood was still wet on her clothes, his life hanging by threads, and she had no leverage left. Fine. Let's get this over with. They took her to Raphael's office, or what was left of it. Someone had set up a folding table, brought in portable lights. Victoria Salazar sat there waiting, looking immaculate despite the firefight that had torn through the house. She had the documents ready, multiple copies, witnesses standing by. Mrs. Decor, she said pleasantly, so glad we could come to an arrangement. Where's Raphael? Being treated, as promised. Now shall we? She pushed the documents forward. Divorce papers first. Sign here, here, and here. Then the asset transfers. It's quite a lot of paperwork, I'm afraid. Your father was very thorough. Alina sat down, picked up the pen, looked at the divorce papers, the same ones she'd been holding when the windows exploded, now reprinted, clean and official. She thought about Raphael's face when he'd offered to let her go. Thought about his blood on her hands, his body broken trying to protect her. Thought about the future she was signing away. Then she thought about him dying alone in some secure location while she fought over papers. She signed the divorce papers. Victoria witnessed them, smiling. Excellent. Now the assets. The asset transfers were more complex. Shell companies, offshore accounts, property holdings. Each one required her signature, her explicit consent to transfer ownership from Virelli Holdings to Salazar Enterprises. $300 million gone with ink on paper. She was halfway through when the lights went out. Not just in the office. The entire house plunged into darkness. Emergency lighting didn't kick in. Someone had killed the backup generators. Gunfire erupted from somewhere below, different rhythm than before, slower, more controlled, professional. Victoria stood up fast. What the hell? We're under attack, someone shouted from the hallway. By who? Decord's people are dead. Not Decord's people. The voice cut off in a wet gurgle. More gunfire. Closer. The tacticals in the office moved to defensive positions, weapons ready. Victoria grabbed Alina's arm. Keep signing. In the dark? There's a flashlight. The window behind them shattered. Not from bullets this time, from a person crashing through it. The figure rolled, came up firing. 2 tacticals went down before anyone could react. The third returned fire, but the shooter was faster, more precise. 3 seconds. 3 bodies. The shooter stood, and in the ambient light from the burning sections of the house, Alina recognized her. Teresa. Mrs. Decor, Teresa said calmly, gun still raised. We're leaving. Victoria had pulled her own weapon, had it pressed against Alina's head. She's not going anywhere. Then I shoot you and take her anyway. You shoot me, my finger twitches, she dies. Teresa's aim didn't waver. Your call, Ms. Salazar, but understand, you're surrounded. Raphael's not dead. He's very much alive and very angry, and he's brought friends. As if on cue, explosions rocked the house. Systematic, controlled. Breaching charges taking out strategic points. More gunfire from every direction. That's impossible, Victoria said. You had a man bleeding out who let you think he was more injured than he was. While you were busy negotiating with Mrs. Decor, he was coordinating a counterattack. The medical team? His people. The secure location? His rally point. You played right into it. Alina's heart was pounding. Raphael's alive. Very. And he says to tell you, debt's paid. Come home. The code phrase. The one that meant it was really Teresa. Really safe. Victoria's grip tightened. She signed the papers. The assets are transferred. Under duress. Invalid. Any lawyer would tear those apart. Teresa took a step forward. Last chance, Miss Salazar. Let her go. We let you live. Keep her. And Raphael comes through that door, and you don't want that. He's injured. He's motivated. There's a difference. Footsteps in the hallway. Heavy, purposeful. Multiple people approaching. Victoria's gun shook slightly. Alina could feel the barrel against her temple, cold and lethal. One wrong move, and this ended badly. The door opened. Raphael stood there, supported by two guards, but standing, conscious, armed. He looked like death warmed over, pale, blood-stained, bandaged, but his eyes were clear and focused entirely on Victoria. Let her go, he said quietly. Or what? You'll kill me? You're barely standing. I don't need to stand to pull a trigger. He raised his weapon. Ask yourself, can you shoot her and turn to shoot me before I put 3 rounds through your skull? Because I've done the math. You can't. This is insane. You should be dead. I've been shot before. I know how to compartmentalize. Now, last time, let her go. Victoria's hand trembled. Alina could see her mind racing, calculating odds, looking for an exit that didn't exist. If I let her go, what's to stop you from killing me anyway? Nothing, Raphael said honestly, except that I'm tired, in pain, and more interested in getting my wife to safety than executing you. But that goodwill expires in about 10 seconds. She's not your wife anymore. She signed the papers. Under duress, they're void. Try again. The assets, also void. You've got nothing, Victoria, except a choice. Live or die. Choose fast. 5 seconds of tense silence. Then Victoria lowered the gun, stepped back, released Alina. Alina ran to Raphael. He caught her with one arm, the other still holding his weapon trained on Victoria. You okay? He asked. You're alive. Surprisingly, yes. Might have some questions about that later, but right now, he looked at Victoria. You've got 30 seconds to get out of my house. After that, my people have orders to shoot anyone who's not us. This isn't over. Yes, it is. You lost. Go. Victoria looked at the unsigned asset transfers on the table, at Alina, at Raphael. Then she turned and walked out, her remaining people scrambling to follow. The moment she was gone, Raphael's knees buckled. Alina and Teresa caught him, eased him to the floor. How bad? Alina asked. Bad enough. The medical team did good work, but I'm running on adrenaline and spite. Probably need an actual hospital. The medics were really yours? Teresa's network. We had them standing by in case things went wrong. When you triggered the fire alarm and started shooting people, which we'll discuss later, by the way, I signaled them to move up the timeline. You used yourself as bait. I used myself as a distraction. There's a difference. He coughed, winced. Did you sign the divorce papers? Alina's stomach dropped. Yes, I'm sorry. I thought you were dying. They said they'd help you if I signed under duress. They're invalid. But legally, any contract signed with a gun to your head doesn't hold up. We'll contest it. You're still my wife in every way that matters. He looked at her, something soft in his expression despite the pain. Unless you want the divorce to stand. She should. After everything, the manipulation, the lies, the violence. She should want out. But sitting there with him bleeding on the floor of his destroyed office, she realized something. She'd had a chance to run. Multiple chances. The safe room, the papers, Victoria's offer. Every time she'd chosen him. Not because she had to, because she wanted to. I don't want the divorce, she said quietly. Raphael exhaled, relief visible. Good, because I'm pretty sure I'd die if you left. And I've been shot 4 times tonight. Don't need another wound. 5 times, Teresa corrected, pointing to his leg. Christ, really? Really. We need to move you, now, before infection sets in or you bleed out internally. They got him up, supported between Alina and 2 guards. The house was still burning in sections, still filled with smoke and bodies and the aftermath of war. But Raphael's people had secured the perimeter, were sweeping for remaining hostiles. They got him to a car, bulletproof SUV, medical supplies in the back. Teresa drove, fast and efficient, while Alina worked to keep Raphael stable. "Where are we going?" Alina asked. "Safe house, doctor I trust. Off-grid." Teresa glanced in the rear view. "You did good tonight, Mrs. Decor." "I killed people." "You saved Raphael. In this world, that's the same thing." Alina looked down at her hands, still stained with blood. Raphael's, hers, people she'd shot. She should feel horror, guilt, remorse. Instead, she felt numb. And underneath the numb, something hard and cold and new. Power. She'd walked into that house a captive. She'd left it having fought her way through a war zone, having negotiated with killers, having pulled a trigger and watched people fall. She wasn't the same person who'd been dragged to that chapel in a blood-stained dress. She wasn't sure what she was now. Raphael's hand found hers. "You're thinking too loud." "I'm processing. Process later. Right now, just breathe." She breathed. In and out, centering herself. "Raphael?" "Yeah." "When this is over, when you're healed and we've dealt with Victoria and the families and all of it, we're going to have a very long conversation about how we do this, how we build something that isn't just survival." "I know. I'm serious. No more manipulation, no more lies, no more using me as a chess piece." "Agreed. And I want a seat at the table, real power, real decisions. I'm not your appendage, I'm your partner." He looked at her, something fierce in his eyes despite the pain. "I know. You proved that tonight." "Good. Just so we're clear." Crystal. The SUV pulled into an underground garage. Teresa killed the engine. Medical team was already waiting, different people, but with the same professional competence. They got Raphael onto a gurney, started working immediately. Alina tried to follow, but Teresa held her back. "Let them work. He'll be okay. He's survived worse." "Has he?" 2 years ago, he took a knife to the gut and still ran 3 miles to safety. Man's too stubborn to die. Alina watched them wheel Raphael into a makeshift operating room, watched the doors close between them. Then she sat down on the concrete floor of the garage, still wearing blood-soaked clothes, still shaking from adrenaline, and finally let herself feel it. The terror, the violence, the impossible choices. The fact that she'd killed people tonight and would probably have to kill more. The fact that she'd chosen this, chosen him, chosen a life built on chaos and war and blood. Teresa sat beside her, didn't say anything, just sat there, silent support. "I don't know if I can do this," Alina whispered. "Do what?" "Live in this world, be this person, kill people and negotiate with monsters and smile while doing it. You did it tonight. Tonight was survival. What about tomorrow? Next week? Next year? How do I become someone who does this regularly and stay human?" Teresa was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You find something worth protecting, something that makes the darkness bearable. For me, it was this house, these people. For you," she looked toward the operating room. "I think you've already found it." Alina followed her gaze. "He's worth this? All of it?" "That's something only you can answer." The operating room doors opened. A doctor emerged, pulling off bloody gloves. "He's stable. Repairs went well. He'll need time to recover, but he should make it." Relief crashed over Alina so hard she almost collapsed. "Can I see him?" "He's sedated. Probably won't wake for hours. But yes. Come on." She stood on shaking legs and followed him inside. Raphael lay on a hospital bed, hooked up to monitors, bandaged and pale, but breathing steadily. She moved to his side, took his hand, felt his pulse strong and steady under her fingers. "You stubborn bastard," she whispered. "You couldn't just stay down, could you?" His fingers twitched slightly. Maybe unconscious response. Maybe something more. She pulled a chair close, sat down, kept holding his hand. Hours passed. The doctors checked on him periodically. Teresa brought her water, food she couldn't eat, a blanket that didn't help with the cold she felt. Dawn came, gray light filtering through the high windows of the safe house. Raphael's eyes opened. He blinked slowly, focusing. saw her, smiled slightly. Hey, hey yourself. She squeezed his hand. How do you feel? Like I got shot 5 times and had field surgery in an underground garage. Accurate assessment. You stayed. Where else would I go? Safe. Far from here. From me. From all of this. Tried that. Decided I'd rather be here. He pulled her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles. I'm a selfish bastard for being glad about that. Yes, you are. We'll add it to the list of things we need to work on. Long list? Extremely. Worth it? She looked at him, battered, broken, still holding her hand like she was his lifeline. Thought about the choice she'd made, the violence she'd committed, the future that waited for them, complicated and dangerous and absolutely nothing like the life she'd imagined. Yeah, she said finally. Worth it. Raphael's smile widened, then faded. Victoria's going to come back. She's not done. I know. The families are going to fracture. Some will side with her. Some will stay neutral. It's going to get uglier before it gets better. I know that too. And you're still staying? Alina thought about the unsigned asset transfers, about the $300 million in holdings her father had built, about the power that came with that money, those connections, that infrastructure. I'm staying, she said, but on one condition. Name it. We call a council meeting, all the families, and I take my seat as Antonio Virelli's heir, not as your wife, as a power in my own right. Raphael's eyes sharpened. You want to claim your father's empire. I want to claim what's mine. Then I want to use it to build something better than what he built, something that doesn't rely on violence and fear. That's a nice dream. It's a plan, and I'm going to need your help to execute it. My help? You have the military strength. I'll have the economic power. Together, we can reshape this world. Or at least try. Raphael looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. You're serious. Completely. You know what that means? The target it puts on your back? The enemies you'll make? I've already got enemies. Might as well make them count for something. He laughed, then winced at the pain it caused. You're going to be terrifying when you come into your full power. Looking forward to it. So am I. He pulled her down gently, kissed her, soft and careful, mindful of injuries. When they broke apart, he said, partners then, in everything. Partners. No more manipulation. No more lies. Full transparency. Complete honesty. Even when it hurts? Especially then. Raphael nodded. Okay. So in the spirit of honesty, Victoria's not going to accept this. She's going to fight. Hard. And it's going to get people killed. I know. Some of those people might be people you care about. People in this house. Teresa. The guards. Me. I know that too. And you're still willing to do this? Alina thought about it. Really thought about it. What she was signing up for. The violence, the danger, the constant threat. The person she'd have to become to survive. Then she thought about the alternative. Running, hiding, spending her life looking over her shoulder, knowing she'd abandoned the one person who'd ever made her feel alive. I'm willing, she said. Why? Because for the first time in my life, I'm choosing my own path. Not following someone else's plan, not being someone's pawn. I'm choosing this, choosing you, choosing to fight, and that's worth any price. Raphael looked at her with something like awe. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway. Best thing that ever happened to me. Getting shot 5 times. Meeting you. She kissed him again, longer this time, deeper, pouring everything into it. The fear, the relief, the desperate love that had grown despite every logical reason to run. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. So what now? She asked. Now we recover. Then we plan. Then we go to war. Just another Tuesday in our world. Our world. I like the sound of that. The doctor came in, started checking monitors. Mr. Decord, you need rest. Mrs. Decord, you should sleep too. You've been up for... He checked his watch. 36 hours. Alina looked at Raphael. Will you be okay? I'm not going anywhere. Go, sleep. When you wake up, we'll start planning how to take over the world. Modest goals. Always. She stood reluctantly, exhaustion finally catching up with her. Teresa appeared to guide her to a room, small, functional, but clean and safe. Alina collapsed onto the bed fully clothed, still wearing Raphael's blood, still feeling the weight of the weapon she'd fired, still seeing the faces of people she'd killed. But she also felt something else. Purpose. For the first time since her father died, since she'd been dragged to that chapel, since this nightmare began, she knew what she was fighting for. Not survival, not escape. Power. Partnership. A future she'd build with her own hands, stained as they were. She closed her eyes and slept dreamlessly. 3 days later, Alina stood in front of a mirror in a room that wasn't hers, wasn't Raphael's, wasn't anywhere she recognized. The woman looking back at her was a stranger. Dark suit, expensive but understated. Hair pulled back severe, minimal makeup. Every inch the image of a woman who belonged in boardrooms and council meetings. No trace of the girl who'd been sold in a blood-stained wedding dress. Teresa stood behind her, making final adjustments. "You look ready," she said. "I don't feel ready." "No one ever does. You just pretend until it becomes real." Alina turned from the mirror. "The families are all here?" "All of them. Victoria's people, the neutrals, even the ones who stayed loyal to Raphael. Everyone wants to see what Antonio Varelli's daughter does next. No pressure. Mountains of it." Teresa's expression softened slightly. "You don't have to do this. Raphael would understand if you changed your mind." "Would he?" "No, but he'd pretend to." That surprised a laugh from Alina. "Honesty, I appreciate it. You asked for it, can't take it back now." Alina looked at herself one more time, took a breath, centered herself the way she'd learned to do in the chaos of the last few days. "Okay, let's do this." They walked through corridors of the neutral meeting hall, some historic building the families used for official business. Guards at every corner, security tighter than anywhere Alina had seen. Raphael was waiting outside the council room. He looked better, still pale, still moving carefully, but upright and dressed in a suit that hid most of the bandages. "You clean up nice," he said. "So do you, for someone who was bleeding out 72 hours ago." Stubborn in spite, powerful combination. He offered his arm. "Ready?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway." "That's my girl." They walked in together. The council room was massive. Circular table, maybe 40 seats, all of them filled. Representatives from every major family, all watching as Raphael and Alina entered. Victoria Salazar sat at the far end, looking composed and dangerous. When she saw Alina, something cold flashed in her eyes. Raphael guided Alina to 2 empty seats, positioned strategically between allies and neutrals. They sat together. The head of the council, an older man Alina didn't recognize, stood. "This emergency session is called to order. Raphael Decord and Alina Varelli have requested to address the council. Ms. Varelli, you have the floor." Alina stood, every eye in the room fixed on her. For a moment she felt the weight of it, the power, the expectations, the judgment. These people had spent decades in this world. She'd been in it for weeks. But she'd also fought through a siege, killed to survive, chosen this path with full knowledge of what it cost. She met Victoria's gaze across the table and didn't look away. 3 weeks ago, she began, voice steady, "I was brought into this world against my will. Sold to settle a debt I didn't know existed. I've spent that time learning who my father really was, what he built, what I've inherited." She pulled out documents, the real ones, authenticated by lawyers Teresa had vetted. Antonio Varelli was a builder. He created infrastructure that most of you still use. Trade routes, financial systems, political connections. And when he died, all of that passed to me. Murmurs around the table, some surprised, some calculating. Victoria Salazar attempted to claim those assets through coercion. She failed. The asset transfers were signed under duress and are therefore void. "Everything my father built remains mine." Victoria stood. "This is ridiculous. You're a civilian who's been in this world for 3 weeks. You have no idea how to—" "I killed 3 of your people getting to Raphael during the siege." Alina's voice didn't rise, but it cut through Victoria's objection. "I negotiated for his life while you had guns to my head. I survived your coup attempt. Don't tell me what I'm capable of. Silence. Absolute silence. I'm claiming my seat, Alina continued, as Antonio Varelli's heir, as a power in this world, and I'm proposing a restructuring of how we operate. What kind of restructuring? The council head asked. The old model is failing. Violence as first resort, fear as currency, brutality as standard practice. It's unsustainable. Eventually, we attract too much attention, law enforcement cracks down, we all lose. I'm proposing we build something different, such as strategic partnerships over territorial warfare, economic leverage over assassination, building legitimate fronts that actually turn profit instead of just laundering money. We don't stop what we do, we just get smarter about how we do it. Victoria laughed. You want to reform organized crime? Make it, what, ethical? I want to make it sustainable. There's a difference. This is naive. This is business. Alina turned to address the full council. Half of you are here because you're tired of the constant warfare, tired of losing people, losing money, losing ground to law enforcement. You want stability. I'm offering it. Not through weakness, through smart power. She could see them considering it, some skeptical, some interested, some clearly waiting to see which way the wind blew. And Raphael Decor? Someone asked. Where does he fit in this new structure? Alina looked at Raphael. He nodded slightly. Raphael and I are partners, in marriage and in business. His military strength combined with my economic resources makes us stronger together than separate. We're not asking for dominance, we're offering alliance. And those who refuse, Victoria asked coldly, are free to operate independently. But understand, this is the future. You can be part of it or against it. Choose wisely. The council head looked around the table. This requires discussion, debate, voting, but the motion has been made. Alina Varelli claims her seat and proposes structural reform, all in favor of recognizing her claim. Hands went up. Not all of them, but more than half. Motion carries. Ms. Varelli is recognized as Antonio Varelli's heir and granted full council membership. The council head looked at Victoria. Ms. Salazar, your objection is noted but overruled. Do you accept this ruling? Victoria's face was stone. For now. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. Tension ratcheted up. Alina could feel it. The moment before violence, the breath before chaos. Raphael stood slowly, carefully. Victoria, you and I both know how this ends if we keep fighting. We've lost people, both sides. The siege, the coup, all of it just weakened us both. Or, he paused, we could acknowledge that neither of us is going away, that we're going to have to share this world whether we like it or not, and we could try to do it without killing each other. You killed my father. Your father tried to make my wife watch an execution. He forced my hand. I'm willing to call it even if you are. Even? You started a war. You continued it. So did I. We're both responsible. Question is, do we end it or keep bleeding? Victoria looked at him, at Alina, at the council watching every word. I want assurances, she said finally. Name them. My family retains its territories, its operations, its autonomy. We're not subordinate to you. Agreed. You're equals. And the Varelli assets? Stay with Alina. Non-negotiable. Victoria's jaw clenched, but she nodded. Fine. Truce. For now. For now works. The council head let out a breath. Then it's settled. New structure, new alliances, new rules. We'll work out specifics over the coming weeks, but for now, this session is adjourned. People stood, conversations breaking out immediately. Alina felt hands shaking hers, voices congratulating her, eyes assessing her from every angle. She'd done it, claimed her power, made her stand. Now came the hard part, keeping it. Raphael appeared at her elbow, pride evident in his eyes. Hell of a first impression. Think they bought it? Some did. Some are waiting to see if you can back it up. But you've got a seat. That's what matters. Victoria approached before Alina could respond. Up close, she looked tired, older than her 32 years. That was bold, Victoria said. Probably stupid, but bold. I'll take that as a compliment. It's not. It's an observation. Victoria's expression hardened slightly. We're not friends. We're never going to be friends. But we're not enemies anymore either. That's the best you're going to get from me. Good enough. Victoria turned to Raphael. Take care of her. She's going to need it in this world. She's tougher than you think.
I know exactly how tough she is. I saw the body count at your house. She did that? At Raphael's nod, Victoria's respect visibly increased. Then maybe she'll survive after all. She walked away, her people following. Raphael took Alina's hand. You okay? Adrenaline's fading, hitting the wall hard. Let's get you out of here. Home. Real home this time, not a safe house. Is the estate even habitable?
Teresa's people have been working around the clock. Main structure secure. We'll rebuild the damaged sections. They left together, guards forming around them, moving through hallways and out to the waiting car. As they drove away from the meeting hall, Alina looked back at the building where she'd just claimed power in a world she barely understood. No going back now, she said quietly. Raphael squeezed her hand. No, but we're going forward together. That's something. Is it enough? Ask me when we've survived the next attempt on our lives. Optimistic? Realistic. But hey, he turned to look at her fully. We've made it this far, against all odds, through manipulation and violence and about 6 impossible situations. If we can survive that, we can survive anything. Alina leaned into him, careful of his injuries. You really believe that? I have to, because the alternative, losing you, is something I couldn't survive. She closed her eyes, feeling the car move through the city, feeling Raphael's warmth beside her, feeling the weight of power she'd claimed settling onto her shoulders. Somewhere behind them, enemies were already planning their next move. Somewhere ahead, more violence waited. But right here, in this moment, she had him. She had her choice. She had her power, and she'd fight like hell to keep all 3. The car turned onto the road leading to the estate, through the gates, up the long drive, home. Whatever that meant now, whatever they'd make it mean. Together. The estate looked different in daylight. Scaffolding covered the damaged sections, construction crews working to repair what the siege had destroyed. But the bones were still there, the walls, the gardens, the fortress Raphael had built. Alina stood at the window of their bedroom. She'd stopped thinking of it as just his room weeks ago, watching the sun rise over grounds that had been a battlefield 3 days earlier. Raphael was still asleep behind her, his breathing deep and even despite the pain medication keeping him functional. She hadn't slept. Couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw faces. The men she'd killed. The blood on her hands. The moment she'd chosen violence over everything she'd thought she believed in. You're thinking too loud again, Raphael said from the bed. She turned. He was awake, propped up on pillows, watching her with eyes that saw too much. How do you do it? She asked. Live with it? The killing? I don't. He shifted, winced at the movement. I just keep breathing and hope eventually it gets easier. It hasn't yet. That's not encouraging. It's honest. You asked for honesty. She moved to the bed, sat on the edge. Do you regret it? Any of it? Which part? Buying you. Manipulating you. Falling for you. Starting a war to keep you. All of it. Raphael was quiet for a long moment. I regret how I did it. The lies, the manipulation. But the outcome? Having you here, choosing to stay, even knowing what I am? No, I can't regret that. Even if it makes me a killer too? You were defending someone you love. That's not the same as what I've done. Isn't it? I pulled the trigger. People died. The reason doesn't change the result. The reason is everything, Alina. It's the only thing that separates murder from protection. She looked at her hands. Still clean now, scrubbed of blood, but she could still feel it. I don't know if I believe that anymore. Then what do you believe? I believe... She struggled to find the words. I believe I crossed a line I can't uncross. I believe I'm different now, and I believe I'm terrified of who I'm becoming. Raphael reached for her hand, pulled her closer. You're becoming someone who survives, someone who fights. That's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing either. It's a necessary thing. In this world, hesitation kills you. You learn that fast. Maybe too fast. Or maybe you're stronger than you thought. Alina leaned against him carefully, mindful of his injuries. What happens now? The council accepted my claim, but Victoria's not going to let this go. Neither are the others who wanted my father's assets. Now we consolidate. Make alliances. Show strength. Prove you're not just a civilian playing dress-up. And how do I prove that? You already did. At the council meeting, the way you spoke, the way you stood up to Victoria, they saw power. Now you just have to back it up. A knock at the door interrupted them. Teresa entered carrying a tablet. Sorry to disturb, but we have a situation. Raphael sat up straighter. What kind of situation? 3 of the neutral families just requested private meetings with Mrs. Dacord. Specifically her, not you. They want to discuss partnerships. Alina blinked. Partnerships for what? Your restructuring proposal. They're interested. They want details, terms, proof you can deliver. Raphael looked at Alina with something like pride. See? Already proving yourself. Or walking into a trap. Possibly both. Teresa set down the tablet. I've vetted all 3 families. They're legitimate in their interest, as far as I can tell. But meetings should be on our territory. Controlled environment. Heavy security. Agreed, Raphael said. Schedule them for... I'll handle it, Alina interrupted. Both Teresa and Raphael looked at her. You claimed your seat, Raphael said carefully. You don't have to... Yes, I do. This is my proposal, my vision. If I let you speak for me, I'm just your proxy. I need to do this myself. Raphael studied her face. You're sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. That's becoming a pattern with you. Seems to work. Teresa smiled slightly. I'll set up the meetings. 2 days out, give you time to prepare. Conference room, full security detail, recording everything for legal protection. Thank you, Teresa. The older woman nodded and left. Alina looked at Raphael. Tell me I'm not insane for doing this. You're not insane. You're brave. Possibly reckless. Definitely terrifying. But not insane. High praise. It's the truth. He pulled her down beside him. You're going to change this world, Alina. I can see it already. Question is whether you're ready for what that costs. What does it cost? Everything. Always everything. The first meeting was with the Kozlov family, Russian operations, primarily financial services that fronted for money laundering. Viktor Kozlov was 60, silver-haired, with the kind of face that had seen everything and been impressed by none of it. He sat across from Alina in the conference room, 2 of his people flanking him, while Raphael's guards lined the walls. Mrs. Dacord, Victor said in heavily accented English, you are young. I am, Alina agreed. Is that a problem? Is observation, not judgment. Young means inexperienced, also means flexible, willing to change. In this business, both are valuable. Then let's talk about change. You heard my proposal at the council. About making our operation sustainable, yes, is interesting theory. In practice? He shrugged. We try similar things before. Always fails. Violence is currency we understand. Everything else is risk. Violence is also expensive. You lose people. You lose territory. You attract law enforcement. My father built his empire on legitimate fronts that actually turned profit. I have those records, those systems. I'm offering to share them. In exchange for what? Partnership. You bring your financial expertise, I bring my infrastructure. We build something that makes money legally and illegally, and we do it smart enough that no one can touch us. Victor leaned back, considering. Your father was a careful man. Paranoid. He trusts no one. Share nothing. Why you different? Because I've learned that isolation is weakness. My father kept everything compartmentalized and it got him killed, not by violence, but by desperation. He borrowed from Raphael because he had no allies, no support network. I won't make that mistake. Smart, but intelligence and execution are different things. You have plan? Alina pulled out documents Teresa had helped her prepare. Financial projections, operational frameworks, risk assessments. I have several plans. This one focuses on tech startups, legitimate companies that can absorb illegal profits, generate real returns, and give us political cover. This one is real estate development in emerging markets. This one is Stop. Victor held up a hand. You do homework is good, but I asked different question. You willing to protect these investments with violence if necessary? If necessary, yes. You say this, but you believe it? Because business we discuss, it attract enemies. People who want to take what we build. You kill to keep it? Alina thought about the men she'd shot during the siege, about the trigger pulls that still haunted her. I've already killed to protect what matters to me. Business assets are just another category. Something shifted in Victor's expression. Respect, maybe. Okay, I am interested. Give me 1 month to review your plans, verify numbers. If they check out, we talk partnership terms. Fair enough. Victor stood, extended his hand. Alina shook it. Firm grip, direct eye contact. You remind me of someone, Victor said. Woman I knew in Moscow, many years ago. She started with nothing. Built empire. Terrified everyone who underestimated her. You have same eyes. What happened to her? She got old, got smart, retired to countryside with enough money to buy small country. Rare happy ending in our world. He smiled slightly. Maybe you get same ending, maybe not, but you survive first year, I think you survive anything. He left with his people. Alina sat back down, releasing a breath she hadn't known she was holding. Raphael had been silent throughout, positioned in the corner where he could watch, but not interfere. Now he moved to her. Well done. I have no idea what I'm doing. You're doing fine. Victor's interested. That's huge. He's old guard, very traditional. If he's willing to consider change, others will follow. 2 more meetings to go. You'll handle them. She looked up at him. How do you know? Because I've watched you go from terrified captive to someone who commands rooms. You're a fast learner, and you're not afraid to bluff when necessary. Was I bluffing? About killing to protect business assets? Yes. You're not there yet, but you sold it convincingly enough that Victor believes you will be. That's what matters. Alina stood, moved to the window. Outside, construction crews were replacing glass, repairing walls, rebuilding. Raphael? Yeah? Do you think we can actually do this, build something different, or are we just rearranging deck chairs on a sinking ship? He came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist carefully. I think if anyone can do it, it's you. You see possibilities I never could. You believe change is possible. That's powerful. Belief doesn't stop bullets. No, but it gives you a reason to dodge them. She leaned back against him, feeling his warmth, his solidity. I'm scared. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. I'm also exhausted. Mentally, physically, emotionally, I feel like I've aged 10 years in 3 weeks. You probably have. This world does that to you. How do you not burn out? Raphael was quiet for a moment. I do. Regularly, I just hide it well, but having you here, it helps. Gives me something to fight for beyond territory and power. Reminds me there's more to existence than survival. Like what? Like this. Quiet moments. Honest conversations. Someone who sees all my darkness and chooses to stay anyway. Alina turned in his arms, careful of his injuries. I love you. I don't think I've said it enough, but I do. Completely. Terrifyingly. In ways that probably qualify as codependent. Raphael smiled. I love you too. Possessively. Obsessively. In ways that would horrify therapists everywhere. We're a mess. We're perfect for each other. She kissed him, soft and lingering, tasting safety and danger in equal measure. The moment broke when Teresa knocked again. Second meeting in 10 minutes. The Chen family. Give us 5, Raphael called back. Alina straightened her suit, checked her reflection in the window. The woman looking back was composed, professional, showing none of the fear churning underneath. Ready? Raphael asked. No, but that's never stopped me before, de surprise. The second and third meetings went similarly. Cautious interest, careful questions, requests for time to evaluate. By the end of the day, Alina had 3 potential partnerships pending and a headache that felt like her skull was splitting. She retreated to the library, seeking the quiet and the familiar. Raphael had meetings of his own, damage control from the siege, alliance maintenance, the endless work of keeping his empire running. She was deep in financial projections when the door opened. Victoria Salazar walked in. Alina was on her feet immediately, hand moving to the weapon Teresa had insisted she carry now. How did you get in here? I called ahead. Raphael cleared it. Relax. Victoria raised her hands, showing she was unarmed. I'm here to talk, not fight. We talked at the council. We performed at the council. This is different. This is off the record. Alina didn't lower her guard. Say what you came to say. Victoria moved to the window, looked out at the grounds. My father was a monster. I know that. I'm not here to defend him, but he was also my father, and you, through Raphael, took him from me. He tried to force me to watch an execution. I know. I read the reports, watched the footage. Victoria turned to face her. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying it still hurts. And I wanted you to know that. To understand that this truce, this peace, it's not because I forgive you. It's because continuing the war hurts worse than swallowing my pride. Alina studied her. Why tell me this? Because you're new to this world. You still think in terms of right and wrong, good and evil. But most of us are just trying to survive while minimizing the body count. My father crossed lines. Raphael crossed lines. You're going to cross lines. Understanding that now before you're too deep to turn back, that's a gift. Doesn't feel like a gift. It's not supposed to feel good. It's supposed to be true. Victoria moved toward the door, then paused. One more thing. Your restructuring proposal? The sustainable operations, the legitimate fronts? It's smart. Smarter than anything I've seen in years, but it's also threatening to people who've built their power on chaos. Watch your back. Some of the families won't wait to see if it works. They'll try to eliminate you first. Is that a warning or a threat? A warning. Believe it or not, I respect what you're trying to do. I don't think it'll work. This world is too broken for reform. But I respect the attempt. Just don't be surprised when people you think are allies turn out to be enemies. In this business, loyalty is conditional. Always. She left before Alina could respond. Alina stood there processing the conversation, feeling the weight of it settle on her shoulders. Victoria was right about one thing. She was new to this world, still learning its rules, its rhythms, its ruthless pragmatism, but she was also right about something else. Lines would be crossed, were already being crossed. The question was how many until she became indistinguishable from the monsters she was trying to reform. Raphael found her there an hour later, still standing by the window, lost in thought. Teresa said Victoria was here. She was. Came to warn me, I think, or maybe threaten me. Hard to tell the difference. What did she say? Alina repeated the conversation. Raphael listened, expression darkening. She's right, he said finally. About people coming for you. About loyalty being conditional. This world doesn't reward idealism. Then why let me try? Because you might succeed where everyone else failed. Because you're stubborn enough to push through when it gets hard. Because, he moved to her, tilted her chin up. Because watching you try to build something better makes me want to be someone worthy of that vision. You're already worthy. I'm really not. But I'm trying, for you. She kissed him, putting everything into it. The fear, the hope, the desperate need to believe they could actually pull this off. When they broke apart, Raphael said, I have something for you. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Not the key to her room this time, something else. Inside was a ring. Simple platinum band, no stones, just clean lines and weight. I know we're already married, Raphael said. Legally, transactionally, all of it. But that was me buying you. This is me asking, will you marry me again? For real this time. No debts? No contracts? Just choice. Alina stared at the ring. Raphael, you don't have to answer now. Take your time. Think about it. But I wanted you to know everything we've built, everything we're trying to build, I want it to be because we both chose it, not because I forced your hand. She took the ring from the box, held it up to the light. It caught the sunset coming through the windows, glinting gold and silver simultaneously. Yes, she said. Yes? Yes, I'll marry you again. For real. By choice. Because despite everything, the violence, the manipulation, the absolute insanity of this life, I can't imagine doing it with anyone else. Raphael's smile was pure relief. Thank God. I was terrified you'd say no. I probably should say no. It would be the smart choice. When have you ever made the smart choice? Fair point. He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly.
course it did. He'd probably had her measurements from that first blood-stained wedding dress. "When?" she asked. "Whenever you want. Next week, next month, next year. Your timeline. Small ceremony? Or large? Your choice. No guards this time. No guns. Just people we trust. That's a very short guest list. Good. I want intimate. I want real. I want nothing like that first nightmare." Raphael pulled her close. "Done. Whatever you want. I'll make it happen." They stood there as the sun set, holding each other, the ring on her finger feeling like both a promise and a challenge. Tomorrow would bring more meetings, more threats, more impossible choices. But right now, in this moment, they had this. It was enough. It had to be. 2 weeks later, Alina stood in the garden wearing a simple white dress. Not silk, not lace, just cotton that moved in the breeze. No bloodstains this time. No forced vows. Just her and Raphael and a dozen people they trusted. Teresa was there, smiling for the first time Alina had ever seen. Viktor Kozlov had come, bringing expensive vodka and gruff well-wishes. A few of Raphael's oldest guards, the ones who'd proven themselves during the siege, and representatives from the 3 families who'd agreed to partnerships, witnessing the union that would bind their futures together. The officiant was a retired judge, Raphael knew, someone outside the life but understanding of its realities. He kept the ceremony short, simple, focused on the vows they'd written themselves. Raphael went first. "I bought you once. I manipulated you, lied to you, tried to control you. I was a monster who saw something beautiful and took it. But you changed me, made me want to be better, even when I didn't know how. So I vow to you now, no more lies, no more manipulation, just honesty, partnership, and a promise to build something worthy of your vision. I'll probably fail. I'll definitely make mistakes, but I'll fail trying to be the man you deserve." Alina's turn. "I came into this world against my will. I was terrified, alone, convinced you were the enemy, and you were in a lot of ways. But you were also the person who challenged me, protected me, showed me strength I didn't know I had. So I vow to you, I choose this. I choose you. I choose the chaos and the danger and the impossible dream that we can build something better. I'll fight beside you, not behind you. I'll be your partner, not your possession. And I'll love you even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." The judge smiled. "By the power vested in me by common sense and mutual stubbornness, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Again, for real this time. You may kiss." Raphael kissed her like he'd been waiting his whole life for permission. Alina kissed him back like she'd finally found home. The small crowd applauded. Viktor shouted something in Russian that made everyone laugh. Teresa wiped her eyes discreetly. Afterward, there was food, music, conversation. Nothing elaborate, just people gathering in a garden that had been a battlefield, celebrating something fragile and new and worth protecting. Alina found herself talking with Viktor, his vodka making her head pleasantly fuzzy. "You did it," Viktor said. "Tamed the monster, claimed your power, stayed alive, is impressive." "I didn't tame him. We tamed each other. Same thing. In this business, finding partner who makes you better instead of worse is rarest thing. Hold on to it." "I plan to." "Good." He raised his glass. "To new beginnings, and to hope that you prove old man wrong, that change is possible." They drank. Later, as the sun set and guests began to leave, Alina and Raphael stood together watching the garden empty. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For this. For giving me a choice. For being willing to change. Thank you for choosing me, even knowing what I am." "What we are," she corrected. "I'm not innocent anymore, Raphael. I've killed. I've claimed power. I've become part of this world. We're both monsters now, just hopefully we're monsters who build instead of destroy." Raphael pulled her close. "I can live with that." They went inside as stars emerged, leaving the garden to the night. 3 months later, Alina sat in a boardroom with representatives from 6 families, presenting quarterly results from their restructuring initiatives. The numbers were good. Better than good. Exceptional. The legitimate fronts were turning real profit. The illegal operations were running smoother with less law enforcement attention, and territorial conflicts had dropped by 40%. She'd proven it could work, not perfectly. There had been setbacks.
Two families had tried to undermine the new structure, had to be forcibly removed from partnerships. One of Victor's operations had been compromised, requiring expensive cleanup. And there were still holdouts, traditional families who refused to adapt. But overall, the vision was working. These results are preliminary, Alina said, wrapping up the presentation. But they demonstrate the viability of sustainable operations. We're making more money with less risk. That's the goal. And the costs? Someone asked. The families you removed from partnership. That was violent. People died. People always die in this business, Alina said flatly. The question is whether they die productively. Removing families who actively sabotaged our success was productive. Brutal, but productive. She saw Raphael in the corner, watching with pride and something else. Maybe concern. She'd changed over these months. Become harder, colder, more willing to make ruthless decisions. The woman who'd been sold in a blood-stained dress wouldn't recognize who she'd become. Sometimes Alina didn't recognize herself either. The meeting adjourned. Partners filed out, some enthusiastic, some still skeptical. Victoria lingered, approaching Alina as the room emptied. "You've proven me wrong," Victoria said. "I didn't think this would work. I'm impressed. High praise from you. Don't let it go to your head. You're still new, still learning. One major crisis and this all could collapse." Always the optimist. Always the realist. Victoria's expression shifted, became something almost genuine. "For what it's worth, I'm glad you survived. This world needs people who still believe change is possible, even if they're wrong. And if we're right, then you'll have accomplished what no one else could, and I'll be first in line to say I underestimated you." Victoria extended her hand. "Until next time, Mrs. Decor." Alina shook it. "Until next time." Victoria left. Raphael approached, wrapping an arm around Alina's waist. "Hell of a presentation. Think they believed it?" "Think they're starting to. You've made believers out of the hardest skeptics. That's not easy." Alina leaned into him. "I'm exhausted. This is harder than I thought it would be." "Want to stop?" "No. But I want to acknowledge that it costs something. Every meeting, every decision, every compromise, pieces of who I was disappear. You're still you, just stronger, sharper. Or just more broken." Raphael turned her to face him. "Broken things can be beautiful, can be functional. We're both shattered pieces trying to build something whole. That's okay." "Is it?" "It has to be. Because the alternative, giving up, walking away, that's not living. That's just existing." Alina looked at him, this man who'd bought her, broken her, rebuilt her, loved her through every impossible moment. "Do you ever regret it? The way we started?" "Every day, and never, both at once." "That doesn't make sense." "None of this makes sense, but we're here. We're alive. We're building something. That's more than most people in this world can say." He was right. It didn't make sense. Nothing about them made sense, but it worked. Somehow, impossibly, it worked. 6 months after the second wedding, Alina woke to sunlight streaming through windows that had been replaced 3 times now. The estate had been fully rebuilt, stronger than before, with security that made Fort Knox look casual. Raphael was already awake, reading something on his tablet. He looked better. The injuries from the siege had healed, leaving scars but no permanent damage. He still moved carefully sometimes, muscle memory of pain, but he was whole. They were both whole, scarred, changed, fundamentally different from who they'd been when this started, but whole. "Morning," he said without looking up. "Morning. What are you reading?" "Police report. There was an incident at one of Victor's operations. Nothing major, but we should probably review security protocols." "Always something." "Always." He set down the tablet, turned to her. "But before we dive into crisis management, Teresa wanted me to tell you something." "What?" "The organization you founded. The one that helps people caught in debt situations, prevents them from being sold like you were. It's expanding. 3 new cities, 2 new programs, hundreds of people helped so far." Alina had started the organization quietly, using some of her inherited wealth to fund it. It was her way of making something good from the nightmare her father had created. That's good news." "It's more than good. It's proof that you can build something better while operating in this world. You're making a real difference."
By running a charity with blood money? By using resources to prevent future tragedies. The source doesn't erase the impact. Alina sat up, pulling her knees to her chest. Do you think we're good people, Raphael? Honestly? He considered the question seriously. No, I think we're broken people trying to do less harm than we could. I think we're survivors who've learned to weaponize our trauma. I think we're in love despite every logical reason not to be. But good? I don't think either of us qualifies as good. That's depressing. That's honest. You asked for honesty. I did. She looked at him, at the scars visible on his chest where his shirt hung open, at the face she'd memorized in 1,000 moments. I don't regret it. Any of it. Even the violence, even the fear, even the parts that broke me. Because it led here. To you. To this. To a life built on organized crime and strategic violence. To a life built on choice, on partnership, on the kind of love that survives when everything else burns. Raphael pulled her close, kissed the top of her head. I don't deserve you. We've established that multiple times. Move on. He laughed. Actually laughed. Rare and genuine. What do you want to do today? Something normal, something that has nothing to do with business or violence or power. Normal is a tall order in our world. Then something close to normal, a walk in the garden, lunch without bodyguards, an hour where we're just two people who love each other. I can do that. They spent the day exactly as Alina had requested, walking through gardens that were finally healed from the battle, eating lunch prepared by staff who'd become friends rather than servants, reading in the library, feet tangled together on the couch, comfortable silence stretching between them. For one day, they were just Alina and Raphael, not decored empire builders, not reformed criminals, not survivors of violence, just two people who'd found each other in the wreckage and decided to stay. As evening fell, they stood on the balcony of their bedroom, watching the sun set over the grounds. I want to tell you something, Alina said. Sounds ominous. Not ominous, just true. She took a breath. When I was dragged to that chapel 3 weeks after my father's funeral, I wanted to die. I prayed for it, begged for some escape, some way out that didn't involve living through whatever nightmare waited. And then I met you, and it was worse than I imagined. You were everything I feared, powerful, ruthless, absolutely in control. This isn't sounding like a compliment, but somewhere in that nightmare, something shifted. You showed me strength, challenged me, made me realize I could be more than a victim. And even though you did it through manipulation and force, even though your methods were horrible, the result was I found myself. Found power I didn't know I had. Found love I never expected. She turned to face him fully. So I want to say thank you for being a monster who showed me how to be a monster too. For buying me and then setting me free to choose you. For building a cage so beautiful I wanted to stay. For loving me in the only way you knew how, even when it was wrong. Raphael's eyes were bright with something that might have been tears. That's the most fucked up thank you I've ever received. We're the most fucked up love story ever written. True. He pulled her close. And I wouldn't change a single thing. Not even the manipulation? Okay, maybe that. But the outcome? Never. They stood there as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of fire and ash, holding each other in the space they'd carved from violence and will. Below them, the estate grounds stretched out, rebuilt, reinforced, ready for whatever came next. Because something always came next in their world. More threats, more challenges, more impossible choices. But they'd face it together. Two broken people who'd built something whole from the shards of who they'd been. Two monsters who'd chosen to build instead of destroy. Two souls who'd found each other in the darkness and decided to make their own light. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. It wasn't redemption or salvation or any of the pretty lies people told themselves about love conquering all. It was survival, partnership, the brutal honesty of two people who knew exactly what they were and chose each other anyway. And in a world built on violence and fear, that was the closest thing to happily ever after they were ever going to get. It was enough. More than enough. It was everything. Trot. 1 year after the blood-stained wedding dress, Alina stood in front of a mirror in a room that was finally, completely hers. The woman looking back was a stranger from who she'd been. Harder, sharper,
carved from experience and choice. But her eyes were clear. Her hands were steady. She was wearing a dress, not white, not blood-stained, just a simple black sheath for the gala they were hosting tonight. A fundraiser for her organization, attended by legitimate business people who had no idea their host was one of the most powerful figures in organized crime. Raphael appeared behind her in the mirror, adjusting his tie. "Ready?" he asked. "As I'll ever be. You'll be brilliant. You always are." She turned to face him. "Raphael?" "Yeah?" "If you could go back to that moment when my father came to you desperate for money, would you still do it? Would you still buy me?" He didn't hesitate. "Yes. Even knowing how much it would hurt me. Even knowing how much it would hurt us both. Because the alternative, a world where I never met you, never knew you, never loved you, that's worse than any pain we went through getting here." Alina kissed him softly. "You're still a monster. And you're still the only person who makes me want to be better. We're disasters. We're perfect." They went downstairs together to greet their guests, to play the roles they'd perfected. Legitimate power couple, philanthropists, pillars of the community. Nobody at the gala knew the truth. Nobody knew about the blood, the bullets, the bodies buried to build their empire. And that was fine. Let them see the surface. Let them admire the charity work, the business acumen, the love story that looked so perfect from the outside. Only Alina and Raphael knew what it had really cost, what they'd sacrificed, what they'd become, what they'd chosen. And they'd chosen each other, every day, through every impossible moment. That was the real story, not the violence or the manipulation or the forced marriage, but the choice that came after. The decision to stay when leaving would have been easier. The commitment to build something better while operating in a world designed to destroy. Late that night, after the guests had left and the staff had cleaned up, Alina and Raphael stood in the same garden where they'd remarried. "Do you think we'll survive this?" Alina asked. "Long term?" "Honestly, I don't know. This world has a way of consuming everyone eventually. But if anyone can make it, it's us." "It's us," he agreed. They stood there under stars that had witnessed everything. The siege, the rebuilding, the transformation of two broken people into something fiercer and stranger and more resilient. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, always did. But tonight, they had this, each other, the garden, the quiet. Tomorrow's battles could wait. Tonight, they'd already won. They'd survived. They'd chosen. They'd built something real from the wreckage of forced beginnings. And in a world where most people didn't get to choose their fate, that was everything. The debt was paid. The cage was opened. The monsters had found their humanity. Not redemption, not salvation, just survival, partnership, and love brutal enough to weather anything. It was enough. It was everything. It was theirs. And they'd fight like hell to keep it. Together. Always together. Until the end. The end. 3 years after burying her father, Alina Varelli stood in a boardroom presenting quarterly earnings to a council of families who once would have killed her without hesitation. Raphael Decor sat in the corner, watching his wife command the room, and remembered the terrified woman in a blood-stained dress who'd challenged him to be better. She'd succeeded. They both had. The world they'd built wasn't perfect. It was still violent, still dangerous, still built on foundations of crime and blood. But it was also more sustainable, more strategic, more human than what had come before. And that was enough. 2 broken people, 1 impossible love, 1,000 brutal choices. This was their story. This was their survival. This was their empire, built not on fear, but on the choice to stay when everything said run. The debt was paid. The debt was always paid. But what they built with their freedom, that was priceless.